How's it going, everybody? My name's T.S. and I write comic books. And, yeah, let's talk about comics for a little while. Anybody have any questions for me? Concerns? You just want to talk about Batman for a little bit? It's always a good time. Please feel free to ask me any questions about writing comic books, creating them, publishing them, anything like that. Or, we can always talk about my new comic book, Hellion and Bash, which is live on Kickstarter right now. Link is in the bio. You can go check it out. Grab yourself a copy. Both issues, issue number 1 and issue number 2, are available through the Kickstarter. And we're about halfway funded with about 2 weeks left. So if you want to help me create more comic books and help prove to my publisher that I was worth spending all that money on, please check it out. Tell a friend, tell a neighbor, tell that weird guy at the comic book shop. I'd love the help. But yeah, so let's hang out. Let's answer some questions. Let's talk about comic books. Let me bring up all the different chats. I love being able to stream to multiple platforms, but I do have like 90 different screens open, which is always kind of annoying. I think I saw my mom in the chat. Which is so funny. What's going on, everybody who stopped by? How you doing today? Let's see if I can get everything going here. Oh, look at that. Look at how fancy I am. I got the new trailer going for Hellion and Bash running on the side, and just a little reminder that it's live on Kickstarter right now. I always point the wrong direction. There we go. Aha, that right there. Rocking my Bob's Burgers shirt today. I've had a couple of comments on some of my videos. Yes, I do like Bob's Burgers. My family did buy me this shirt. It says, "I love you, but you're all the worst." Oh no, but you're all terrible. And it's very accurate. I love my family, but sometimes they're a lot. We got to get together to talk about Alka-Blam pitch. Dude, I would love to. Let's talk about Alka-Blam. And also, let's talk about me writing some stuff for you. I would love to. I actually was getting a lot of crap for this the other day when I was live, because I had several people that I am currently writing projects on and people that want to write projects with me. And they're like, "TS out here trying to write with everybody." Like joking around, but here's the thing, I really am. I'm not so in demand that I'm working with a million big publishers. I have a couple of smaller ones that I get to work with because I'm really lucky. And I'm mostly making indie comic books, and I love making comic books. So any opportunity I get to write something, I'm going to be there, and I'm going to love doing it, and I'm going to put 110% in. So if you need a comic book writer, I'm your guy. I love doing it, and, for some strange reason, people like the stuff that I write. I don't understand it, but they do. Love how I come in talking about me. Listen, when you only have maybe 50 fans and followers and people that talk about stuff, there's going to be overlap. And I want to apologize up front. I might cough a little bit. I'm still kind of getting over being sick. So if you hear some gross coughs, I really apologize. Bodie, how you doing today? Taylor, how are you doing? I have a 1980s diesel punk mech story I have rattling around in my head too. That's all the words you just said sound so cool. I'm totally in. Oh, excuse me. I would love to check it out too. Even if you just want to talk about it. I do have a project for you. See what I mean? It always ends up like that. A lot of what I do when it comes to indie comic books is building that resume, right? I'm trying to work with other publishers because my main plan is to do as much in one arena so it earns me a spot in the next. And so far that's worked out for me, right? I did my little tiny self-published books until I could get some smaller publisher work. And I'm going to do as much publisher work as I can to get more publishers interested. So I'm always going to say yes, honestly, unless it's a really bad project or you're a bigot or something. I'm down to clown. and also too, this is just the coolest job, right? It's nice when it pays. It's nice when people see it, but honestly, it's also just so much fun that I would do it even if I couldn't get anyone to see it, even if I didn't get paid, because I love writing comic books. They're my favorite thing to do. When I'm not writing comic books, I'm reading comic books. I'm talking to people about them. It is my life, for all intents and purposes. So, see, that's my mom in the chat. Hey, Ma, how you doing? Thinking of asking where to do a little Match Girl reimagining for us. Oh, that's really rad. I actually did a lot of reimagining for fairy tales and whatnot a few years ago. there was kind of like a trend in small publishers doing anthologies that's like, it's like a fairy tale plus a twist, fairy tale in space, fairy tale but cyberpunk, fairy tale but, you know, with ninjas, etc. And I did a lot of pitches for that, to the point where I have several scripts. I don't have a Little Match Girl one yet, but definitely doable. I can, like, the gears are already turning in my head. There could be something there. Also, I've always really enjoyed that, like doing different like twists on existing stories. It's always a fun time. It's still a trend on the novel side. Oh, I believe it. I believe it. Even when it's circular, sometimes they come back around to this, like, the same thing. We're like, well, it still sells, is the thing, right? Like, when you look at, like, Fables or any of the millions of YA novels that were doing well because it was like a twist on, you know, fairy tales, they sell, so people are gonna want them, and they you know, want them because they sell, and vice versa, and it just keeps going. Philip B, how's it going, dude? We still haven't linked up offline. We gotta do that. We gotta trade some emails or some phone numbers or something. Like, one of the few people that has been my mutual when it comes to indie comic books for a long time, and we've never linked up elsewhere. I was just talking to Martin from Cosmic Times about the exact same thing, where it's like, hey, we've been in each other's videos, we've commented on stuff, we've been in the same spheres for projects, and we've still, you know, two ships passing in the night. And I know it's because we're all busy, right? Like, the amount of people that I work with actively that I can't always talk to on a daily basis. I was just talking to my buddy Sam, co-creator, excuse me, on The Digger, my project I'm working for, Invader Comics. I hadn't had a chance to talk to him since the beginning of February, and we're actively working together on a series. It's just how it goes sometimes. There's just not enough time. Same writing class. Yeah, exactly. It's like we came up together kind of thing, you know? It would be either a single issue or short limited series. Let me know. I will definitely hit you up after this specifically, Taylor. I'm very interested, and definitely, like, I know I never like to aim, like, for lofty goals, so a single issue would obviously be fine. It all depends on how many you want to try to get published, right? That's how I describe it. Oi, what's going on, Unreal? How you doing, dude? Had a blast reading your pitch the other day. I don't know if you saw the email that I responded with. I kept it brief, but if you wanted to talk more in depth, I'm totally interested. Just hearing more about the story, about retro and everything. Just saw your email. Thanks for the feedback. Oh, awesome. Cool. Yeah, I'm really glad you see it. And of course, anytime, dude. I got to read a bunch of really cool projects this weekend. I was kind of swamped with other people's pitches this weekend, which has been really cool. I owed lots of people feedback, so I wanted to catch up. So I burned through some stuff for you. I talked to Fate Comics about some of their upcoming stuff. Irrepressible. And then Chimera, which is a project from Bug Boy, a nice dude here on TikTok. So read lots of different stuff there. Oh, I also got to read some stuff from Kyle Goodman. Planet Nerd Tween has a book out. I definitely recommend going to check that out if you like indie comic books. So just a blast reading other people's stuff this weekend to kind of reset the brain and get ready for this week, which is going to be pitch. So if you get annoyed by my shilling about me talking about Hellion and Bash, which is live on Kickstarter right now, I'm going to be doing it a lot this week. Got to get those numbers up. Got to get people interested. You know, it is what it is. Six Skills says, I'm going to send you my rough idea on Discord for that mech story after lunch because I'm training now. That's totally fair, man. Thanks for stopping by. Definitely send it to me. Also, if you want to email me, like I have an email on my website. There's also a form submission, but feel free to stop by there. You also have me, you can DM me on a million different platforms. So totally down to check it out. You have one of ours. That's awesome. Which one is it? Was it Chimera? What do I have of yours already? I don't doubt it. There's like a lot of people that message me about that stuff, which has been really interesting. Like when I got on here to talk about my stuff, it really was in that selfish endeavor of like, I need to talk about my books. Nobody has heard of me. Every publisher I talk to say, get onto social media, plug your stuff. And so I did that, and really what ended up happening is like, yeah, I talk about my books sometimes. Most of the time, I talk about other people's stuff. And honestly, that's easier for me. I like talking about other people's books. You have our Ecclesian Society comic. Oh, I do? Oh, that's rad. I will definitely check it out if I don't think I have yet. It might have hit spam or something too. I'm not sure. Which email did you send it to? Can you let me know? Cosmic Times, how you doing? I was just talking about you. In a good way. I promise. Nobody told Martin what I said about him while he was offline and not paying attention. But yeah, Taylor, let me know where you sent it so I can double check. If I did already read it and give you feedback, I'm sorry. Sorry, the pitch. Remember, this is Tyler's. No, I totally remember. I just don't remember where you sent it. Because if you sent it somewhere that I owe you a response, that's more what I worry about. And I apologize if I didn't get back to you about stuff yet. If I already did, you're welcome, I guess. But I definitely want to track it down, and because I am a smaller creator when it comes to like the TikTok side of it. I try to get back to everybody who emails me, comments on a video, anything like that, because I'm not so popular that I have so many people hitting me up. I get busy sometimes, and sometimes it takes a while, and something like this might slip through the cracks, but I view it as like I do owe you a response because you took the time to send me something. So even if it takes too long, and I apologize if it does, I will always get back to you because I appreciate that you spent the time to send it to me, you know? I shared it on Word. Oh, she just shared like a Word doc? Alright. And maybe that's why it's just shared with me. Let's check it out. Let's see if I can hunt this down. I'm not seeing anything on there. Can you do me a favor? Because instead of me hunting this down, can you share it again? Just go ahead and share it in an email, or just share with that same email that you have, and that way it's at the very, very tippy top, and I will make sure to get to it next. Thank you so much. I appreciate the patience with me, but again, I mean it. I don't just say it. Like, if you send me something, I'm gonna get back to you. I'm going to read it. I'm going to take the time because I appreciate that you took the time to send me something, that you thought I was worth sending your stuff to, Mad Cave approached me years ago at New York Comic Con, gave me their pitch pack for me to publish. That's so right. That's awesome, dude. I tossed it in a box because I thought it said Man Cave, and missed my chance to publish. Like, okay, less awesome. That is heartbreaking, and you just unlocked a new fear dream for me, like full nightmare fuel. I promise you, I'm gonna wake up in a cold sweat with that exact same thing happening in the dream as my teeth are falling out. That is horrifying, dude. I'm so sorry. Number one. Number two, that is crazy. And also it shows like how much I had to learn from like looking at your stuff. Or like, no one's ever approached me and asked me for a book. You know what I mean? Like, any even like close to a publishing deal I've ever had is me going, hey, listen, you've never heard of me. I know that. I know you're annoyed that I exist, that I'm in your face right now. Please give this a chance. Please read it. I have all these people who have said it's good. These professional people who have said it's good. These people who are not professional, but they buy a lot of comic books have said it's good. Maybe you'll like it. Like, no one has ever approached me for anything. So, that's so cool, man. I'm sorry that it ended that way, but also I feel like that's something you can fall back on, where it's like, hey, this studio or this publisher that's only been on the rise, like they're now like a contender in the industry. They wanted you. Like that is a major like confidence boost whenever you need one. Got my files in CSP set up. Probably gonna get noodling for the first post sooner than later. Gonna have 2 to 3 done before I upload the first. Dude, that's so cool, man. I'm so proud of you for jumping back into it and for following through. And also, it's a great idea. I'm excited to just like read it as purely as a fan. Like, I love your artwork. I know we've talked about it offline and stuff, but I'm excited to see you getting back to it. And also, it's been a long time since like it's been full pages. Like, you've done different artwork in between there, but for me, again, as a fan, to be able to jump in and actually see full page, everything going, that's gonna be so cool, dude. And like I said, I was excited by the pitch, and like I want to see where it goes. So purely from a selfish endeavor, I'm pumped. Oh, excuse me. Again, I apologize. Coughing up a storm, man. I'm sure people love to hear that. Can't even blame it on the con cred this time around. I haven't been to a con in several days. Going to more, got signed up for so many. I'm on a wait list for like everything. here's a question. What mainstream comics do you read? Oh, man. It's such a big question because I try to read everything. Obviously, an impossibility. So many cool things come out that slip through the cracks or I'm not able to get into. I try to read as much indie stuff as possible from every single publisher that I might want to work with, kind of want to work with. I'm a big Image guy, so anything Image puts out. When it comes to like a must-buy, no matter what, Brubaker and Phillips, anything that they create, I'm there day one. Love them. When it comes to Marvel and DC, anything with Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, also there day one. Love them. I love everything Tom King right now. I'm just reading his Black Canary series. I'm reading everything Absolute and Ultimate at the moment. Having a lot of fun with those two universes. And I was really skeptical going in. I'm a big Hickman fan, but I was like, Hickman, Spider-Man, you know, I'm picturing all of his like his graphics and like super high concept stuff. And I'm like, how is that going to gel with Spider-Man, which is a pretty simple idea. And, you know, I forget that even in those super high concept stories, he really brings the emotion no matter what. And I'm loving Ultimate Spider-Man and everything in the Ultimate Universe. Like, I did not expect to dig Ultimate X-Men from Peach Momoko. It's just not my vibe. I'm not a gigantic manga guy all the time, and it is such a slice of life, you know, horror manga just on its front, and it is one of my favorites that's coming out right now. Absolute Batman I was super skeptical on because I was like, okay, I've seen a million different versions of Snyder's Batman. He's done every which way he can. Can he bring something new to it? And also, I'm like, okay, what's the big twist on this one? Okay, Batman's poor. I've done that. Other people have done that. Is that enough of a concept? And it totally is. He's done so many cool things. Big, bombastic. I love the pitch of the entire world. Love Jason Aaron, and I love what he's doing with Superman. Same thing with Kelly Thompson. So, like, I try to read everything. Scotty Young, I just picked up Ain't No Grave. Love that book. I love everything he does, but specifically, I loved Ain't No Grave. And finally, to round this out, everything that the Massiveverse is doing right now and the Energon universe. I'm a gigantic Kirkman fan, giant Higgins fan, Parrot, everybody over there at the Massiveverse. Daniel Warren Johnson over with Energon. But I pick up everything like in order. So just finished Scarlet, about to pick up Destro. I'm a trade waiter because I'm poor. But I'm loving everything with the Energon universe. It's like a dream come true as like a kid me. Didn't read G.I. Joe or watch G.I. Joe as a kid, really. It was before my time. But I'm loving how it ties into Transformers. It's been awesome. Such a cool, like this like trend of like mini lines, right? Like these mini universes where it's like 2 or 3 books as like an imprint almost has been so cool and revitalizing for me to jump into a universe without being able to read 50 different ongoing things has been really cool. And then with the Massive universe, it's the coolest superhero comics period happening right now. I think hands down, bar none, I don't think you can really compete. I'm a big Tokusatsu fan, so I love all of the Tokusatsu-inspired costumes. You know, Henshin Calls, being a Power Rangers or a Sentai fan is such a cool tie-in, and everything has one over there. So, loving all of that stuff. It's kind of a crappy answer, because the answer is everything, right? But, thank you so much for letting me just dump on what I'm reading. Also, World's Finest, my favorite book right now. So, it's going to be limited to TikTok exclusively, so I'm locked 2 to 3 panels a page. Still, though, like, as an artist, you know this, like, sometimes the limitation creates such a beautiful piece of artwork, because I know when I'm unlimited, sometimes I get stuck with decision paralysis. There's too many things to do. When you kind of box me in, it forces my brain to come up with an answer so quickly. I honestly work faster with limitations, and usually come up with stuff I wouldn't have otherwise. You should check out Bug Wars from Image. Bug Wars. Okay, that was another one. I haven't read it yet, again, because it's single issues, but I did pick it up. I do have it in the stack, so I'm going to check it out. Like, in particular, like I said, I'm a trade waiter, but I saw it, and I was like, I need to pick this up. Gotta do it. So thank you for confirming that. Energon is my favorite group of comics right now. Definitely. Benny, what's going on, dude? We have like 15 conversations going on, Benny. Like I think I have you on text, on email, and on here. Scotty is one of my top 5. I love his style. Find him while he was on Venom in the really early 2000s. Exactly same right after Spider-Clan. Loved his work across the board, and I loved his Wizard of Oz tenure. I just read all of the Wizard of Oz books with my kids, and I love everything Scotty Young. I hate Fairyland, all the way to Middle West. Middle West is probably my favorite story period in comic books. Him and Jorge Corona can do no wrong. I love what Jorge Corona has also been doing on Transformers, going with DWJ. It's been really cool to see him hop over there. Also, Jorge Corona's Batgirls is one of my favorite pieces of artwork, period. So gorgeous. And I learned so much from him when it comes to like my art style and developing that. And I learned a lot of writing from Scotty Young. It's been rad. Should have an email from Taylor Publishing Group. I will check it out right now, Ty. Yeah, sorry. No worries, Benny. I'm sorry that I can't always get back to you. And listen, I love working on your project, and I never want you to feel like if I haven't worked on it lately, or if you haven't heard from me, that you're on the back burner. I'm just a busy guy, and I have a lot of other obligations, and some of them sadly are contractual. So, I always have to go to where the contract and the payments are, because they have to get top billing, because I could be sued, right? Also, they pay the bills, so I got to answer those emails first. But anything else that I'm working on, I love it, and I did have a lot of fun writing. I think what did we write? The first 8 pages of your issue, and I will totally get to the rest of it soon. I totally promise. I heard Scotty Young, my artist, and I absolutely love him. Oh, heck yeah, dude. I love all the Scotty Young love that I've been seeing here. I just listened to his interview on Ideas Don't Bleed, one of my favorite podcasts on comics. If you don't listen to it, please go and check that out. It's made by comic creators for comic creators. Go check that podcast out. But they did a great interview with Scotty Young. That's another one that I was just reading is What's the Furthest Place from Here? With Rosenberg, and I love that comic book, and I had only read the first 2 volumes. I hadn't read volume 3, and I just picked up volume 3, and I've been having a blast with that one. Kind of post-apocalyptic, somewhat lighthearted. If you liked 4 Kids Walked in the Bank, same creator, but I love that series. Definitely check it out. I needed something post-apocalyptic to read because I rewatched Station 11 recently with my wife. She had never seen the show. We both read the book, and I loved that series. And I was kind of stuck in a rut. I was either going to replay The Last of Us for the 1000th time, or continue reading What's the Furthest Place from Here. So that's what I did. Oh, just followed him on Spotify. Oh, great choice, Ricardo. Great choice. So much to learn there. I always recommend to people, if you're jumping into writing comic books or drawing, whatever, if you're jumping into comic books, you should learn about the business side of it and obviously the artistic side, and you should learn that from people who understand those two things. So listening to podcasts, not just from fans of the comics, but also from people who make comic books. So Ideas Don't Bleed is a great one. And then Off Panel is the other one I would recommend. It comes from Sketched by David Harper. It covers every aspect of comic books. He has great interviews with comic book writers, artists, letterers, people within the industry on the business side, so publishers, distributors, comic book shop owners, and then other critics as well. And I highly recommend those 2 podcasts if you want to learn about what goes into creating a comic book rather than just hearing people talk about what the newest Spider-Man book is, which is a lot of fun, but it's not always a place where you can learn things, especially when that's going to further your career. So I do, Off Panel with David Harper. Yeah, exactly. That's the one. Love that podcast. And also, if you get the chance, subscribe to his website, Sketched, without any vowels in there, is how you spell it out. Highly recommend that. A lot to learn. Everything I know about the business, I learn from him or people adjacent to him. And so I highly recommend going to check that out if you're on that side. Mad, Bacalo, Young, Capullo, Scalera. In terms of stateside for me, in terms of style influences. That's a great list. Capullo, I've never been able, I'm not detail-oriented enough. I think that's why I gravitate towards someone like Young, because it is so loose, it is so cartoony in an amazing way that he can convey all the information he needs in such a unconventional way, right? With Capullo, I can stare at his artwork all day, same thing as Dan Mora. It's so gorgeous to look at. I have so many Capullo and Mora prints, but I cannot emulate it, and I don't know if I have the sensibilities to refine to the point that I can do that. I'm working towards it, but I just, they're so gorgeous to look at when it comes to their artwork. The first time I'd run into Capullo, obviously probably Spawn, but when I was jumping back into comic books, all of his New 52 work on Batman really, really brought me into learning more about the artist at the time. Because I think I was maybe 17, 18 when they were reviving that, and that was like the perfect time for me to really deep dive on everything that Capullo had done. And also, like, he gave so many good interviews about how to work better with artists, because he had, some issues working with Snyder at the time, because, like, just growing pains of doing a new creative team, and he had talked so openly about it, and how they eventually found such a cool groove, and I learned a lot about how I converse with the artists I get a chance to work with from hearing Capullo talk about what not to do, basically. I just found a stack of comics from the 90s. What was in the stack, Taylor? I need to know. Also, when you're on the Taylor Comics account, is it okay if I call you Taylor? Would you prefer me to call you Ty at all times? What do you want me to do? Thank you for the tips. I've been looking for podcasts lately. Always happy to. I love podcasts. I was a podcaster way before I started making comic books. Honestly, failed podcaster for a long time. I ran a small network about TTRPGs and like D&D stuff with the Slovenly Trolls, an amazing, super well-researched podcast that looks at all of the TTRPG space and D&D from a feminist lens, from two like doctoral thesis like mindsets. So you have two very well educated women talking about D&D in such a fascinating way and really breaking down what's problematic and awesome about Dungeons and Dragons. So definitely go and check that out if you're looking for D&D stuff. But I love podcasts in general is my point. And the only reason why I left is because I found a little bit more success making comic books, and it's so hard to do both. I have been toying with making a new podcast to do it like monthly, but I just don't know how much I could really bring to the table for people to learn from me, because I mean, you see the extent of my knowledge until I'm working with like super large publishers every single month. I don't know if there's as much that I can share with you, but I'll tell you everything I learned. That's for sure. His stuff looks like the middle run Capullo Spawn stuff. Right. Nailed it. But I mean, I think that sometimes I see people who are jumping into like writing or drawing comic books, and they see all these names thrown out, and it's hard. It's kind of daunting. You see it, it's a little scary. That's like, oh, this person's influenced by Young, or this person draws a little bit like Capullo, or like, and we're mentioning these names with such reverence, but you don't have to have an encyclopedic knowledge of all these people. You can jump in and you can learn, and you can look up these things, you don't have to feel like you need to know all these names as we go. But if you hear any that sound interesting, or if you see a piece of artwork in a book or a writer, if you enjoy a story specifically, I do recommend starting to look into the people that created that book, whether it's a letterer, writer, artist, whatever, because you unlock so much information about the comic books, and you can learn so much by following these creators. I started doing it selfishly when I first started to learn who was behind the books that I love, because I wanted to read more things like the thing I was holding. So it wasn't even just like, oh, I want to learn about this artist or this writer. I think of like J. Michael Straczynski, one of my favorite writers, period. Wrote a lot of stuff around Spider-Man, around 9/11. And I was reading that, and it was the first time where like I was moved by a book in such a way that I just had to see who did this, who wrote the words behind this. And I looked them up, and I was like, I just want to read more things like this. So I followed his career, and now I've watched, read anything I could get my hands on. And it's to my benefit because I get to see all that stuff, but I also learned a lot. And you can start to break it down by the tools that you're given by these writers, artists, whatever. Like, what do you like about them? What don't you like about them? What can I carry on to my toolkit, And, but I always recommend looking to who's behind the art that you enjoy, because it's really easy to just boil it down to their piece of artwork. Like, oh, I love that band's song. It's like, okay, have you ever looked up who's in the band? You don't have to, but you might be able to find other things that they've created. One of the coolest things to do with like a punk band is to find out how many other groups every single person in that band is a part of, and you hear so many different influences in the little pieces of that band that you do like pop up in other music. And so just do me a favor and sometimes just go check out the people who are behind the art that you love. Just pledge $20. Dude, Six Skills, thank you so much, man. I really, really appreciate that. Let's do a live check-in real quick. Let me see what's sitting at. I'm going to be honest with you, because I've been sick and I haven't been plugging it as much, I've been a little bit not paying attention to it because I know the numbers weren't as high. And I need to, you got to power through that, right? You got to go and do it anyway. So let me bring up the Kickstarter for Hellion and Bash #2, which is live right now on Kickstarter. Please go check it out or tell a friend. Unreal Existence says, oh yeah, for sure, I collected those names over a lifetime, but definitely follow what peaks. It's true, like you kind of build up that, like it's like your portfolio of who you're a fan of, right? And you kind of build that roster of like, well, whatever they put out, I'm going to go check out. I commend you for sharing your experience. Most will do it behind a paywall, which I can understand. Maybe like I appreciate that, man, and it could just be because I know no one's gonna pay for it, right? Like maybe if I was Giant, maybe it would cross my mind to charge people for it, but I think that there's a little bit of like what keeps me humble is that I have to be, right? Like I could get cocky and charge people for my experience, but who's gonna pay, right? Like I am not some big name. I don't have so much stuff to share with you, you know. So. But I was trying to make it relatable. I mean, I try to keep it relatable for sure, but I still don't think it's like, there's not a lot of people beating down my door to learn what I know. You know what I mean? So I don't think I could charge for it if I wanted to, but, like you and I'll go with, well, I appreciate that, man. And listen, I'm just as surprised, when people do come at me. But I appreciate it nonetheless. Could I ask you some questions about food? If not, I understand. Always, dude. I'm always down to talk about food, Carlos. Anytime. We're going to talk about hot dogs for an hour and a half. I was on K-Pop Junkie a couple of weeks ago, and that's all we did, you know? So never apologize for asking me a question. I'll answer them as long as it's legal for me to answer, I will answer. I only found one of them because of another. It's domino effect. Exactly. Like, how many times do you find one creative that leads you into another team that you love, if not even more so? I always think about Snyder, Scott Snyder specifically, when he came up in DC and he brought a lot of his indie comic book friends with him, like Tynion, one of my favorite writers of all time, and I found him because of his work that he did with Snyder, and Kyle Higgins and everybody he's brought into Power Rangers and then the Massiverse afterwards, some of the best artwork I've ever seen, and I only found them because I enjoyed his work, you know? Substack it. Maybe I should do that. I do have like a light newsletter that I send out with all my stuff. That's just like, hey, I got this new book coming out. You purchased, or you were interested in purchasing before. So I have your email. You said yes, I was okay with emailing. I don't send out a lot of other thoughts with it because I'm never sure what other people want to hear. You know, what's the most underrated salad dressing? The most underrated raspberry or strawberry vinaigrette. I think because, you know, it's got the tartness of the vinegar and it's somewhat sweet. People don't always jump to it. They want something savory sometimes, like a ranch with salad. But I think a raspberry or a strawberry vinaigrette is always lacking when it comes to options. I like both. I like ranch, you know, I like a good Caesar or whatever. But if you got a vinaigrette, man, oh, I'm in. Creamy or otherwise, I don't care. I literally have a poke bowl sitting in the fridge. And on that same note, eel sauce. I know people think eel sauce is specifically only for certain types of sushi rolls. Eel sauce can go on anything, in my opinion. It's like hot sauce. Put that shit on everything. Well, at TKS, we did a seminar with Snyder students at Sarah Lawrence. Tynion had just grad. Do you see? Dude, that's so cool, man. And, like, when you see that lineage, right? I know some people who get frustrated. They're like, well, like, I can't break in because, like, Snyder took all of his friends. It's like, but he didn't just take his friends. It's not like those were just buddies of his, right? Those are people that he saw, that he came up with, like Philip B. and I are talking about. It's like in the same class of people, and he's happened to be the first one in the door, and he saw all these very, very talented people who were putting in the work, and so he carried them forward whenever he could, and they didn't spit at the chance. They didn't flounder when they got the shot. they took it and they killed it. You know what I mean? Like, they did a great job once they were there. And so you have that lineage. You can always look at it. You can go, well, I dig this person who works with Tynion now, and I dig Tynion because he worked with Snyder, and I dig Snyder because he worked with, I don't know, Stephen King or whatever on American Vampire. You can see it, and to me, I love seeing that lineage, partly because it's analogous to comic books itself. It's that legacy. It's the mantle being passed, right? It's the Batman. I loved when Dick Grayson was Batman and Damian was his Robin, and you look back to the lineage to Bruce, and even like Bruce to the Shadow or Zorro or whoever in the whatever continuity you're having is someone who inspired him. I love that storytelling, and I love seeing the class and the generations that go up, and you can see what each person learned from the person who helped them come up. It's always so cool to me. Am I getting filtered? You might be getting filtered, Taylor. I'm sorry. I haven't seen many comments from you in a few minutes. Make friends with his friends and they'll bring you up. Maybe. I don't know. I think part of the problem that I see is like I have some like really, really talented mutuals on here. And because so many of us are busy, it's like we could be friends, but like who has time to talk and hang out? Avina Comics in the chat. This is a great example. I've learned so much from John Avina and the stuff he's doing. He's going to go way further than me, way faster. And I would love to hit up John and hang out all the time because we have so much in common. But we're both busy writing comic books. We're both busy working and doing the stuff. Plus, several cities away, and he's never returned my calls. But he's always a person that I think I'm like, man, if he makes it big, and he will make it big, it's like I hope that somewhere I write something good enough that he remembers me, So it's less about going, oh, make friends with this person, and more like make an impact on that person. Make sure that they don't forget you, not because they owe you one, but because you can't be forgotten, because you wrote something so good that they can't get it out of their mind. And that's why, like, anything that I'm really proud of that I write, which is a lot of what I do, I try to send it to as many people as possible. That's not just to get sales up. That's not just to go, haha, look at this cool thing. It's like, no, I hope somewhere they see my name and they remember it. I hope I wrote something good enough that it's going to stick in their brain. So I send my stuff to a lot of comic book creators, just in general, hoping that they'll see it and remember my name if it ever pops up again. That's how you get picked up. That's how you find an editor or a creator, and maybe they need a backup, and they go, I did read this one thing by this one guy this one time. It's about being everywhere. It's another reason why I say yes to so many projects and ask so many people. And I ask people too that that they're doing the exact same thing as me. I can't count how many people who are self-publishing stuff just like me right here on TikTok, and I'm like, hey, can I write a backup for you? Can I write a 2-page story? Do you have any room for me over there? And it's like, well, no one can pay, nobody has time, no one can do any of that stuff in a way where it's like I'm gonna profit from it, but I love the experience, and I want them to remember me. Marguerite Bennett was part of the class we got to jam with. Oh, that's so cool. The true BBEG of D&D is always scheduling. Dude, it really, really is. I just mean if you're cool and you're around and the window opens, chain reaction. That's true too. The amount of times where like a cool gig has popped up and I've just barely missed my chance. Like Martin from Cosmic Times was on here talking about how he missed his chance with the publisher, and that happens a lot. I've had a couple of near misses with publishers or creators that I would love to work with, and it never lined up perfectly. And I try not to dwell on it because it didn't happen. Being mad about it doesn't change anything. Me dwelling on missing my chance never is going to change it, right? You can't time travel, so can't do it. Hellion and Bash number 2. Penny, what's going on? Yes, Hellion and Bash number 2, which is live on Kickstarter right now. You can go check it out. Let's do a live check-in real quick to see what we're sitting at. Let's go I'll let it load. What are we sitting at here? We are sitting at 1,381 out of a $3,000 goal with 48 backers and 16 days to go. This is so cool. Thank you so much for all of your help getting there. Anybody who's backed, shared, anything like that. And I will say, I'm going to put an update on there tonight. If we get to 50 backers before the end of the week, I'm going to be giving out some really cool pinups from my buddy Russ Frechette, an amazing artist who's launching his own label soon, and it is of the pterodactyl, which is this guy right here. Let me go full screen for myself so you can see this. Da-da-da-da. So I will be giving away new pinups for that, art prints, whatever you want to call them. Okay, testing, I am here. You are here. I have some change to need to throw before I go to work and some test. Thank you so much for the gifts, Agony. You're the best, man. Thank you so much. Also, while everyone is here, if you can, all right, Gun Mosey, you'll have a good one. Thanks again, TS. Catch you around. Thanks so much, Unreal, for stopping by. I really appreciate you hanging out, dude. You're the best, and I will see you soon. Agony, stop it. Thank you so much. You gave me all of your change. Now, what are you going to do next time you need to go to the car wash? TikTok isn't liking me at all. I'm so Sailor Ty. I'm so sorry. Can you all do me a favor, though? If you're here, if you know me, go show John Avina some love. I was just reading some of his comics. I was taking notes. Again, that dude's going to be huge one day, and I want to tell people that I knew him before he was cool, you know? Which is not true, because he's always been cool. But go and tell him how awesome he is and how much I love reading his stuff. Just do it, okay? But you guys are all the best. Thank you so much for hanging out. And let me know if you have any questions about Hellion and Bash issue number 2. Live on Kickstarter right now. You can go pick up issues 1 and 2, and you can prove to my publisher, Professional Entropy, that I was worth that big bucket of money that they backed up. And by big bucket of money, I mean small, soup bowl full of money that I then gave to Marcus Pedro, my amazing artist, on issue number 2. I need your digital address to send the stuff. You need my digital address? For what? What are you sending me? Love your face and thank you for everything you do. No, I love your face, Agony. You're the best. I love all of the anthropomorphic faces that you draw too. Alright? They're all amazing. I don't know why we're yelling at each other now. Why are we so mad about this? Oh, man. Ty, don't you already have my email? Didn't you just say you sent me an email earlier? I didn't check to see if it came through. Let me check it right now. And I'll tell you if it came through. No, it didn't. I don't have anything from you. Maybe that's why I didn't see it before. Maybe I didn't actually get the email. Go to my website, Ty, all right? Go to the link in my bio and go to my submission form, all right? That'll be a good way to do it. It didn't go through. The electronic mail address. So you don't have it? It's in my bio, I believe. I can't put it in the chat. You won't see it. Let me DM you my email. Excuse me. I apologize for burping at you. Let's see. Taylor Comics. Thought I did. Said address not found. Yeah, you probably just got it wrong. That's no big deal at all. Let's see if I can find your account. Which one do you want me to send it to, Ty? Do you want me to send it to your Taylor Comics account, or do you want me to send it to your Ty account? Don't matter. Matters to me. Also, my mutual Danny Strider is live right now, so go check him out. Send him some love. Let's see, Taylor Comics. I think I got you right here. Let me know if you see this message. That's the email. And you know what? I'll double check my spam too. Maybe you got sent to spam. No, I don't have any spam. Oh, Ming, how you doing, dude? How goes it? I'm just here chatting about Hellion and Bash issue number 2, just live on Kickstarter right now. You can go check it out. Tell a friend, tell a neighbor, tell that weird dude at the comic book shop. Uh, it's live right now. I got the ad running over there on the side. But if you like superhero comics like Invincible, go check out Hellion and Bash, who protects the superhero sidekick from the superhero. When the superheroes don't step up to do it, the supervillains have to, and they all go on the run from the entire superhero community. So like I said, if you like books like Invincible, Victories, The Boys, anything like that, superheroes who are telling a serious story, please go and check out Hellion and Bash. The link is in my bio, so go ahead and do that. Hey, oh, congrats. Hey, thanks, man. I really appreciate that. I got a publisher for issue number 2, and it's in no small part to, seeing what you do and learning from you. And if I hadn't read the Victories, there would be no Hellion and Bash. So thank you so much. And also, thank you for doing all of the different lives that you've been doing, so I can hop onto Instagram and bother you over there, and not just when you're on TikTok. It's been fun to be able to hop in over there, and obviously it's, it goes full circle, because then I go, okay, I need to go on live and I need to advertise, because I'm only I think I'm halfway funded, and I gotta prove to my publisher that I'm worth paying to do this again. They want an ongoing series, but I gotta keep selling an ongoing series. I gotta make sure it happens. Did you run ads on YouTube? I did run ads on YouTube, in fact. I ran ads on YouTube, Facebook, on TikTok, and we were sitting at 1,381 out of $3,000 goal. That's so rad. Thank you so much, guys. 48 backers. If we get to 50, I'm going to show off a new art print that I got done by my buddy Russ Fichette, an amazing artist. We have a new art print of Pterodactyl that I'm going to be including with everybody's order of issue number 2. So that's really cool. And I have some news to share about The Digger coming from Invader Comics. There might be some new distribution coming from them, working with some other publishers, as all the stuff that's going on with Diamond. But I'm really excited to do stuff there. And I'm working on new pitch packets for some other publishers. So if I get some yeses, you might see me popping up other places. People actually open up my emails now, which is so crazy. I didn't know that would ever happen. And I think it's mostly thanks to all of you awesome people on here and who have backed all of my other projects. So thank you so much. Okay, you've sent the email again. Awesome, Taylor. I will definitely check out your art and your pitch packet or your story. I don't remember what you were sharing with me, but I'm in, and I can't wait to read it. I had a blast reading everybody's stuff this weekend. Thank you so much for sharing it with me. I honestly, when it comes to talking on here and showing my comic books, yeah, a big part is telling you about my new issue. But I just love coming on here and talking to people who like to write comic books and make comic books. And, we talked for an hour earlier just about what we're all reading and Batman and what's new. You should go check out Blue Book and Newbury. But I love talking to people who also make comic books, because I'm just a little dude from Michigan, and I came from the woods, and there was nobody making art, let alone comic books, where I came from. And it's cool to come on here and see so many people making stuff. And so many people willing to take a chance on an indie book. People forget that's where most comic book, creators get their start, is in indie stuff. And to come on here and not be laughed out of the room when I start talking about Hellion and Bash is really cool. And you've afforded me the opportunity to sell Hellion and Bash, but they also picked up Tokyo Fire, which is my first big indie hit. They're going to be doing the rest of this series as well. So issues 1 through 8 are going to be coming out from over there, which is so crazy. I'm super excited about that. I actually had to turn in a few issues today. I was just emailing Mike Perkins from Invader Comics. Had to turn in the next outline for issue number 4 of The Digger, and Tokyo Fire number 2 is in production, and Hellion and Bash issue number 3 is going right now. I just sent issue number 2 to get lettered, so I have a million different things going, and it's all thanks to you guys. So thank you so much. I do have some artwork to be sharing. I started working on a graphic novel for another small publisher. Contract's not signed yet, so I can't talk about it yet. But I wanted to start sharing some of my artwork because I'm going to be doing the interiors for the first time for a published book, which I don't do. I do a lot of covers for indie stuff, but I don't do, or I haven't done a ton of interiors. And so I'm writing this project and drawing it and lettering it. So I'll be excited to see what everyone thinks of that. But it was originally purely budgetary constraint, and then I just had so much fun doing it that I wanted to carry it over for the rest of the project. So I can't wait to let everyone see that kind of stuff. Hopefully they like it. Hopefully they don't laugh me out of the room because it's not drawn by Marcus Pedro or Sky Hawkins, my awesome co-creators in all these other books. But sometimes you just gotta pull a Thanos and do it yourself. Gotcha, Taylor. Outline. All right, I will definitely check out your outline. Again, full disclosure, I don't know how much I can help you with it or give you notes on, because it's all about the execution. You can write some really cool bullet points in there, but what you do in the main issue is going to decide how good of a story it is. But I can definitely tell you if I like the idea or not. That's a lot of what I did this weekend with other people's stories. But I never want to get people's hopes up where like you send an outline and then I go, oh, this is the coolest thing ever, because it never will be, right? Or even if it is, that doesn't mean it's going to make an awesome comic. It really depends on your execution and how well you do with the idea. And also, take anything that I say with a grain of salt and a shot of penicillin, because I'm not some big name. I've worked with 2 publishers so far, and I self-publish everything else. I'm about to work with a 3rd, which is really rad. But when it comes to notches on my resume that make me an expert, they're few and far between. So I never want to give you the idea that I know everything. And there's a lot to be learned from people who are much higher on the totem pole, who have been doing this much longer and have climbed much further up on that ladder. So you can learn some stuff from me, but know that I am not some expert and I don't know everything. And people are way, way more successful who also share these tips. Juan, how's it going, dude? The demon cop himself. That's basic feedback, and I want, does it seem like a good idea? All right, man, I can definitely give that. I can definitely check that out and say, hey, this is good, thumbs up, keep going, or nope, this is terrible, burn it, never look at it again. I'm sure it's not that, but I guess those are the 2 options, right? But a lot of it, too, is I can help you go from there and tell you what the next step is, right? And even just sometimes it's commiseration. It's knowing that somebody else saw your stuff and they didn't throw up. I try not to share stuff at the level that you're at currently, like with outlines. I don't do it because I have a problem with getting that dopamine hit, with getting excited. Someone said they liked it. Sometimes that's enough for my brain, and then I don't have the drive to go finish that project. So now I don't share anything till it's almost done. I just I don't want to get so excited by someone saying, hey, this is good, and then I don't want to go finish the rest of it. Also, because I finish stuff now, like before when I didn't finish comic books, when it was just an idea in my head, I needed more feedback. Now I don't want to get that feedback till it's something that they can fully read, and then I would like to hear what people are thinking of it. I hope everyone's doing okay today. If you haven't, go and check out Hellion and Bash issue number 2 live on Kickstarter. You can see the trailer running right next to me. The link is in my bio. You can go and back it. And you can pick up issues 1 and 2 over there, so you can get fully caught up on the series. It's an ongoing series coming out from Professional Entropy, a small publisher. I'm so excited to be working with them. They actually gave me money to write this, so if you need that co-signer saying that I know what I'm doing, somebody paid me to do this, so I do it only because we are super new to this side of publishing. That's totally fair, Taylor. I definitely get what you're going for there. And I definitely understand like wanting to get that feedback from someone who's currently doing the thing that you want to do next. Like that's totally fair. I just always hesitate where I'm like, I don't know how much information I can help you glean from it if it's not in the scripting process. Like, especially as like a comic book writer, that's the thing that I'm good at is writing scripts and giving feedback on that stuff. When it comes to publishing, yes, I've self-published stuff, but I wouldn't say that I'm like the best at it. And when it comes to like working with publishers, you're better off talking to those publishers, right? But I can tell you what I've learned and see if that helps. I'm thinking of writing a comic book about a weapon, like the weapon itself is the main character. Excuse me. That's really rad. I probably not what you're thinking of at all, but it makes me think of what was that? What was that anime and manga that had Death Junior in it, and like the main character, she could turn it into. Or she wielded a scythe, and her partner was the person who turned into the scythe. I don't remember the name of that series. But that one was pretty cool, and it makes me think of that. Is it just told from the point of view of the weapon? Like, so it's like we get narration or something? It does. That sounds. It is really dope. I want to find the name of it and recommend it to you. But how is yours told? Is it told just like from the point of view of the weapon? Can the weapon speak? What are the vibes there? Did you see my comment about finding a stack of 90s comics out? I did, and I said, hey, what was in that stack of 90s comics that you found? And you never told me, Taylor. You never told me what was in that stack. Soul Eater is the name of that anime one. I found it. Soul Eater. I didn't hear that. How dare you, Ty? You failed this city. Well, you heard it now. What was in the stack? Let me know. The weapon is extremely powerful, but it's used by multiple different people throughout time. That's really cool, especially if you have the weapon telling the story. You have a little bit of like Berserker in there. You have a little bit of like the Highlander style, where you can go through different periods and show what's changed. And you can really highlight how versatile the weapon is, not just from like an actual weapon standpoint, but as a character standpoint. You can show the different phases of its life, when it was with someone who was just and willing to defend versus someone who was butchering and, you know, doing horrible things with it. You are open to a lot of different storytelling aspects, because you can show that the weapon might have been like passive in some of the events that it's been a part of, and you can showcase like, again, like that versatility, and that allows you to have lots of different protagonists and lots of different angles. I really enjoy that style, where it's not like fully like anthology based, but you can approach the story from lots of different angles. I know we've talked about it a little bit when you were asking about tips before, about like how do you showcase someone not being overpowered. And I know what I had said was give somebody else their powers and show what they do with it. And it's that same idea, right? You have this really powerful weapon that's basically a MacGuffin at this point, but it's a main character. And you can show what type of person wields it and the difference in that power. I think that's really cool. I'm really excited to see that. How far along are you in the writing process? DJ Woods, I'm not a great writer, but I'm good at world building and storytelling. Been looking at comics as an alternate form of storytelling. Any advice in getting started? Yes. Get good at the other part. Get good at the scripting process, or find a really good collaborator to help you work with that part. Because the world building and like telling those general stories where it's like, hey, I have an idea for a story, is awesome and a lot of fun, but it won't always help you complete the story that you need to finish a comic book, or any other writing that you're doing, honestly, on that point. Sit down and get in the weeds and do that next part of it. I recommend starting with a few bullet points, 3 literally, beginning, middle, and end, and start to fill in your world building points as they fit into the beginning, middle, and end. And then you'll slowly see your specific story, your actual script start to develop in there. And you can go from there, and you'll find that skill, and you'll find that you probably are better at it than you give yourself credit for, and you'll learn that part. The other part that I would recommend, if you want to do that, is look at other people's scripts. Look at how they do it. It's one of the reasons why I always like give away my scripts with whatever comic book I'm selling at the time, because there's a lot to be learned there on how to make your own. So I recommend doing that part. But I think like when it comes to world building and doing all that stuff, you can go a lot further in a comic book than you can if you're like, well, I like telling stories, but I'm not a great writer. I'm going to make a novel. But then those world building parts that you have don't always come in handy. Whereas with a comic book, knowing how the world building fits in always is helpful, because whether you're drawing it yourself or you're going to hand it to an artist, they're going to have questions. You're going to have questions. Take, for instance, Tokyo Fire, my comic book Tokyo Fire. Right here. It's cyberpunk. One of the things that happens in it is the dudes have like hovercraft, so hover bikes, hover boards. And the first question I got on the script from Sky Hawkins, my co-creator, was, "Hey, how do the hoverboards work? Like, what's their power source? What's powering them? Because that's gonna depend. That's gonna change and decide how I draw them." And so like I had to go into how the power works in it, like what the power source is, how it's utilized, does it sound loud, like is it quiet, all these little things that, because I had done the world building homework, I had answers for, and I had a place to go. And so what I do is I'll write a page or a few pages, and my reward, my like candy, what I do to like, you know, keep powering through, my reward is to go world build. So I'll take a few minutes and I'll go write a few bullet points for fun ideas that I had. And that's how I keep going, because the world building is like my reward for actually doing the writing, which in my opinion is the harder part. Shadow of the Bat, Nothing Freaks 1 and 2, Green Arrow 75th issue special, love that. Turkish Dino Hunter, that's rad. Now that is an interesting and eclectic stack by far. The basic idea so far, but I just finished issue 2 for Demon Cop, so now I'll have more time to focus. That's rad. It's super cool that you're doing an issue 2 of Demon Cop, too. It's about time, Juan. I'm super excited to check that out. And I'm glad that you're checking out something else, too. That's really cool. A bunch of different Superman, Star Trek, Next Generation, Star Trek, Blood Syndicate, Batman Jazz. Love it. Love it. I love 90s Superman too. It's like I wouldn't say guilty pleasure, because there's some really, really honest to God like awesome comic books in there. But some of the stuff that was like cringy and that people hated were like some of my first comic books. So it's similar to like the Clone Saga, where like everyone's like, it was awful. But like I remember how cool it was seeing, you know, like Superman with his mullet and the black costume, or Ben Reilly in his hoodie. Like I have such a nostalgic soft spot for those 90 comics. Hardware, Green Lantern Corps, Thor, Wonder Woman, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Ninjak. Oh, Ninjak, throwback. All the Star Trek comics is so rad. It's so random. Batwoman, Flash. Icon and Justice League Task Force. Icon is amazing. Love Icon. Hey, what's going on, Thomas? How you doing, dude? Just writing as usual. Of course. I was just telling Benny Rose this, but I love that we have like 9 different like conversations going as we pop online and do other stuff. Because it's just like, it makes me, it's that office feeling, but with people I actually have things in common with. I worked in an office for so long, and it's like water cooler talk, but it was like, the stuff we worked on was boring, and I did not like it, so I didn't always love talking to everybody about stuff. But knowing all these different comic book creators and people who want to jump into making comic books, chatting with you guys offline, and then hopping into a live, and everyone who stops in is also working on comic books, or is interested in working on comic books, or writing stuff. And it just, again, it gives me that camaraderie in that office feel, but with people and a thing that I actually enjoy. Buy this book and his others. This man is a character all on his own. You don't want to miss out. Craiger, thank you so much, man. You're the best, and I really appreciate those words. I'm not crying, you're crying. I just happen to have something in both my eyes, so ignore that. It's a Blood Syndicate and Icon crossover. Oh, that's cool. I don't know. I might own that book, actually. Let me look at the cover. Yes, I do have that one. Was it and Rocket? I mean, obviously, you have Icon and Rocket, but there were some that were published solo. But if it was Blood Syndicate versus Icon and Rocket, I do have that one. I built an entire fantasy world with multiple continents, different ages, with different races, gods, religions, powers, etc. And I've wrote 12 short stories that are set on one of the continents. And that's really cool, and I love to see it, and like the creativity that it takes to do something like that is awesome, and it takes a lot more than I think some people think, but it's still in the execution of what you do with those other stories. And I think if you like writing short stories, I think you might find more of a love for writing comic books than you did for writing, like, if you were to switch to novels, say. I came from writing a lot of short stories, and I've created a few novels, but part of it is, like, you're working on so much for so long without a lot of feedback, and there's a lot of room for error. Whereas, like, moving from short stories to comic books, I enjoyed that so much more because there's so much more room to play, and I felt like I got to the end point of, like, this is a finished script so much faster, which you just do. And that was more fulfilling probably for my brain that just wanted to go and play. As I read back my stories, I understand them, but I'm aware enough people can't understand my writing. Yeah, and I think that with comic books, because you're more like writing a script for a play, as long as the artist understands, you're only seeing the dialogue and what the artist has drawn, so you can create something more coherent without stressing over the individual words that you use. Whereas, like, if you write a short story or a novella or a novel, like, it is, you have to stress way more about the way that you're conveying the story than just telling a good story. Hardest part is keeping a series to 5 issues, trying to summarize it all to fit. Man, and it's almost impossible, but you know, and Thomas, I know you know this, but speaking to everybody else, like, there's a certain level of, like, if you're a newer writer, and even if you're kind of a veteran, you have to keep it to that, because no one in this day and age, unless your name's Robert Kirkman, is going to give you 50 issues, let alone 144. You know what I mean? You're at most, especially if you're starting out, like, going to get 1 to 5. You know. When I pitched the Digger to Invader comics, one of the only reasons why they were like, yeah, we're going to do the whole series, is because it was 4 issues. Doing Hellion and Bash ongoing, the deal that I have is, like, hey, they're going to try to get 4 made. If it does really well, they'll keep going. But it's really contingent on how well it does. Like, they couldn't give me money up front to do 50 issues or something, even if they wanted to. It just doesn't exist. The money's not there. And they couldn't commit to that because they don't know if people are going to be interested. And odds are probably aren't going to be interested for 50 issues for a nobody like me. But, like, even if you're working with Image, like, I think of I Hate This Place. Love that comic book. Love Kyle Starks. And you can tell that story could have gone further, right? But, like, I think they gave them 11-ish issues. 11 to 13, somewhere around there. And, like, that was a miracle that it got that many, you know? That's just how it goes. I have a plan, but sorry, long question, but my question is, do you find it easier to explain your story face-to-face better or through your writing? Depends on who I'm talking to and what I'm trying to do with it, DJ. I think as a pitch, like, convincing somebody to buy my comic book, give me money for it, or to a publisher, right? I think I pitch better in the room. I think I'm better face-to-face. I think I can read what they're vibing with and adjust on the fly and improv and tell a story. When I see they're really interested in one part of it, I can lean into that. And that is why oftentimes you don't get that chance up front. They don't want to be tricked into it. They want to buy it on its own merit, which is why they want you to give them a summary and another summary and a different sized other summary. It's why you send them a pitch packet and they don't go, let's hop on the phone and do it. They'll do that after they're already buying into it, at least somewhat. They'll do a follow-up and do that. I think most stories, if you have a good storyteller, are told better face-to-face, like this, telling them that way. But with comic books, if you're talking about just the merit of the story, it's definitely better on the page than what I can tell you right here. Because the beauty of comic books is I get to be paired with amazing artists like Marcus Pedro, and, like, yeah, Hellion and Bash on the page is still pretty compelling. Way more compelling when you see what he does on a double page spread, or, like, when you see Pterodactyl on that side. I can say there's a giant green pterosaur that's anthropomorphic that's hanging off this building, but Marcus Pedro brings that to life in such a way that is going to sell it way better than I could on my own. So it depends. If you're talking about pitching it, I think I do better face-to-face. If you're talking about actually telling the story, I think it always comes better off when it's in the finished writing because of the medium that I work in. I had issues writing on, like, novels and just prose in general because even when people enjoyed the general story I was telling, it was the way that I told them and the words that I chose they didn't find, I think, elegant enough. And that was something that I had to sit with, was like, I wasn't going to make it as a fantasy writer because of the way that I chose my words. It just didn't fit with what people wanted to see. And as I pivoted to comic books, that became less and less important because they enjoyed my dialogue and they enjoyed the general story that I came up with. It didn't matter about the words I used specifically to convey it as long as the artist understood them because it was more stage direction. Hey, there's a giant green pterosaur hanging off the side of the building. It's pterodactyl. Instead of having to come up with a way that an audience would be entertained by each word. And so my medium of choice became comic books. Again, TikTok hates me. I don't think everybody hates you. It's number 5. Thank you. I don't think people talk about Icon enough. It was really cool seeing him get love. Him and Rocket in Young Justice, which was really cool because there was a whole generation of people I think that missed out. It was sad that they didn't get touched on enough in like Static Shock or something, but it's weird. I guess it's not weird. We all know why with characters of color, like how they fall to the wayside. But it makes me sad that you don't see Icon and Rocket, not just in movies, but like everywhere. You know, they're just awesome characters that I would love to see more of. And we've had different revitalizations, and we've had, you know, the rights hand off to different people when it comes to any of those characters from that side of the DC universe. But I wish we saw them more because it's not this weird relic of the 90s. It's like, those are timeless characters to me, and they have stories to be told. There are so many times where like I'll see a new Flash story that I've seen a million times. But I'm like, you have this entire set of characters that you could be doing something with that just get pushed to the wayside. All right, let's do one last check-in before I go. I gotta go make the donuts, as they say. Let's look at the Kickstarter. Let me do a little refresh here. We are sitting at $1,381 out of a $3,000 goal with 48 backers and 16 days left to go. That's 16 days left to get your copies of Hellion and Bash Issue number 1, Hellion and Bash Issue number 2, and all the other stuff that you can add on there. We have lots of other comic books that we can share with you through there. You can pick up a digital copy of Growing Up, my first anthology. You can pick up a copy of Tokyo Fire, issue number 1. Which is super awesome, and we're getting more issues of that soon as well. That's probably going to be the next Kickstarter that we run after Hellion and Bash issue number 2 is jumping back to that universe. And I just got a bunch of amazing artwork with all of the really cool cameos that are going to be in issue number 2. So if you like this stuff, you want to back it, you can purchase a cameo for your original character, for yourself. If you just want to see yourself in a comic book, go and check that out. But yeah, thank you so much for stopping by, keeping me company while I ranted and raved about comic books. It's been a blast, and I appreciate you guys hanging out. Any last minute questions about writing comic books, creating comic books, publishing them, anything that you want to know that I can help with, or, you know, talk about food. I had somebody jump in and ask me about salad dressing earlier. Where do you submit ideas? I don't submit ideas anywhere because sadly ideas aren't worth much when it comes to the industry of comic books. I submit whole pitch packets and whole issues to many different publishers. Honestly, anybody that has an open submission policy. You can pitch the big dogs like Image, Dark Horse. Boom doesn't have open submissions. IDW does on occasion, but there are lots of other publishers in between. Vault Comics, Fantagraphics, Invader, Alterna. Professional Entropy did. That's the one who's publishing Hellion and Bash, but they don't right now because I took up most of their slate. But yeah, honestly, any publisher who will listen. With artwork. Yeah, with artwork. So I just did a video. You can click on my my profile. It's called What is a Pitch Packet? And it basically goes into what a publisher wants to see when you're cold submitting. They all have lots of different criteria, but the one thing that they do have in common is they want to see preview pages. So you're going to do a little like front resume cover letter that's basically got your logo, your log line, like the one sentence pitch of your comic book. a really, really short paragraph of the main idea, and then who's on your team. So who's the writer, who's the letterer, who's the artist, an editor if you have one, and all the books that you and your team have done. And they want you to have done some books. They want you to have self-published some things if you've never done it. And then on the next page, you do this big long summary that's like a whole page first. That has a summary of everything that's going to happen in the arc that you want them to publish. And that's a one page, and I usually spend about a paragraph on each issue. If you're doing it for Dark Horse is a good example. Dark Horse wants a single page for every single issue. So if you're pitching them a 6-issue miniseries, they want 6 pages of summary. Finally, and this is the big one, this is the thing that you're asking about, they want to see preview pages. So that means a cover, and that means usually 5 to 7 interior pages, sequential order. It doesn't have to be the beginning of it, it just has to be a chunk, and they have to be told in order. So 5 to 7 pages of completed pages. So if it's a full color book, they want to see it fully drawn, colored, and lettered, like you're reading an actual final comic book in there. I haven't even had much luck just doing 5 to 7 pages. The only yeses I've gotten from publishers are ones that I give the entire issue to. So it's like, hey, we want to see 5 to 7 pages more if you have it. I gave them the whole issue. So it's really pay to play. You gotta be able to have a whole book already. And in the comments we have there, also be ready for lots of rejection letters. So many rejections come so fast, and worse than that, you gotta be ready to not hear anything at all, because they don't all have time to respond with the rejections. And I will say, if you've never published anything yourself, like self-published a book, and put out there several different times, they're gonna reject you even if you have the coolest book possible. They want to see that you're doing it already, and you're gonna learn how to hone your craft a little bit better. And that's why I always say it's pay to play. I self-published several books before I even had publishers opening up my emails, and I spent my entire life savings sending out pitch packets, and nobody read them because no one cared who I was. It's like nobody cared who I was until I put on the mask. Nobody cared who I was until I started self-publishing and crowdfunding my books. Now some publishers, not even all of them, some publishers will open up my email and send a rejection letter. You know what I mean? So you got to be careful with that. Thomas, I'm going to speak for you just for a second. You're pitching comic books right now, and I think one of the reasons why you're ready to do that is because you have self-published a large handful of comic books in your own universe. Bug Boy, what's going on? I was just talking about you a few minutes ago. And because you've done that, you're going to be able to get more yeses. And some more no's, but at least feedback, period. Real advice. I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much, DJ, and I'm glad you appreciate it, and I'm always down to answer questions if you have them. Give me a follow, send me a DM, anything like that. I do tips like this all the time on there. Yeah, having a resume is important. It really is invaluable, honestly, when it comes to pitching comic books, because like I always say, and I've heard this from pros, from publishers, and indie creators alike, no one will pay you to make comic books unless you're already making comic books. And that means putting your blood, sweat, tears, and a lot of your own money into it first before anyone gives it a chance. We don't have open submissions currently, but we may reach out to people to do some of our stuff. Well, there you go. You got a small publisher right here in the chat willing to look at stuff. But again, I don't mean to make it sound like impossible by any means. Like I said, like I'm doing it, but I always hesitate to tell people, because like I think we have this idea of like, well, I want to make comic books, I want to get my big break, so I want to jump in and work for a publisher immediately. And it won't happen. It doesn't work like that unless you really know somebody who knows somebody. It's just not how it goes. You got to be making your own comic books. You got to be self-publishing. You got to be doing your own thing first, sometimes for a while, before a publisher will even consider you. But that doesn't mean it's hopeless. That doesn't mean it's not worth it. You know, it just is what it is. Also, working with someone someone in the industry helps. Definitely. Like again, talking to Thomas from Fake Comics, hiring an editor who's worked with big publishers is a great way. Someone who already has those contacts. Working with an artist who's already been published or has done some of their own indie publishing. Same thing with a letterer. Work with people that you can learn from if you can. If not, go and do a ton of your own research on it. Listen to podcasts like Off-Panel Podcasts from Sketch, David Harper. You'll learn a ton about the industry. Listen to podcasts like Ideas Don't Bleed from Rosenberg, who will teach you how like all these different creators write and draw and how they broke into the industry. Like do your research, find people already in the industry, learn from the people who are there. And you can definitely learn a lot from like me or Fake Comics, people who are working in the indies. But there are so many other people who are qualified that you can learn from because they are professionals and have been doing it much longer, much more successfully. Like I can help you in the indie space. I can help you find a small publisher. I can help you learn how to write. But what I can't do is tell you how to go work with Marvel or DC. I don't know how to do that. If I knew how to do that, I would be doing it right now. I can't tell you how to get a million yeses from publishers because I've only gotten 2. So always take that with a grain of salt from whoever you're listening to here on TikTok, Instagram, wherever on social media. If they sound like an expert, but you've never heard of them, take that. Internalize that. Think about that. That's why I'm always really honest. Like I can give you tips on the stuff that I know, but I'm not an expert in anything. I can only tell you what I do know, and that's why I'll never give you tips on breaking into the industry. Because I don't know how to do that. So when started researching into doing comics, we just set up a comic imprint. Yeah, right, exactly. Also be careful of some indies. Some have no passion to be a part of major publishers. It's very, very true. You might get like, me and Thomas have talked about this offline a lot, but there are some people who are like, I want to be the next Marvel. I don't want to work for Marvel. I want to be Marvel. Or like, I don't like Image Comics. I'm going to be the next Image Comics. And so some of the advice that they give you comes with a different kind of cynicism. That doesn't mean there's nothing to be learned, but it means that they might not be aiming for the same trajectory as you. One of the things that I'm always really honest about, one of the reasons why you see me pop up everywhere, and what I'm trying to do isn't just make my own indie comics forever. My goal is to work with those larger publishers. It is to work with smaller publishers, to work with larger publishers, to do my own creator-owned stuff for larger publishers like Image, Boom, IDW, etc., Dark Horse. So I am on a trajectory, or I'm attempting to be on a trajectory to work with those other publishers. So if you want to learn how to do that, see me work my way through there, that's what I'm trying to do. Some people who do indie comics, they just want to do indie comics. They just want to sell their book, as many copies of their book, so they can make the next issue. And it's not a yes or no or bad or good or anything like that. It's just you gotta think about what you're gonna learn from them. Are you trying to do the same thing? And keep that in mind for what your goals are. Yeah, no, I don't care about money. Just want my story to be told. Right? And if that's the case, either way could be good for you. And that's where like awesome self-publishing comes in. You don't have to worry about pitching it to a publisher. And that can help you get over the like publishing your first book. That could be a scam for money. See, oh man, the amount of classes I've seen from people. This is how you get in, good with Kickstarter or people online, or this is how you sell 1 million copies and become the next Stan Lee. But you've never heard of the person, I don't charge for any tips because I don't think I have enough tips to give you that make it worth money, right? And even if I did, I don't know if I would charge for that part because I don't want to be a teacher. I don't want to be an influencer. I just want to write comic books. And that comes with the weird side effect of having to make content like this, right? Having to go live stream and make tips on TikTok. So I end up doing that, How'd you put together my team? Well, each book is different. Let's take Hellion and Bash, for example. I love Hellion and Bash. This is the book I'm selling right now. Link is in my bio. I wanted to work with Marcus Pedro because I saw I was trolling through ArtStation. So ArtStation is an amazing website that not only shows off people's portfolios like DeviantArt, it also lists the artist's resume, so other stuff that they've worked on. It lists what their qualifications are, like what kind of things that they know how to use, so like digital art, which digital art programs, etc. But it also lists what they want to work on, what kind of jobs they're looking for. So you can filter for someone who's experienced in working in comic art or sequential art, and people who are looking to be hired to make comic book art. So I did that, and I found Marcus Pedro's ArtStation, and from there I followed his portfolio to a Portuguese language webtoon app, basically. The webtooner Tapas, it's called Funktune, and I read all of his stuff over there. And so I really wanted to work with Marcus, and I loved all of his stuff, and I had looked around for it. So I emailed him, asked him to take a chance on me, and then I had worked with Mike Stock, the letterer on the book, on my last book, Tokyo Fire, and he came highly recommended. And so he helped letter issue number 2. Fish Lee, a buddy of mine who makes comic books right here on TikTok, lettered issue number 1. And I had met him by being hired by him to be his editor and write comic books for him. But I meet the different teams I work with by looking for them. So going to ArtStation, going to DeviantArt, Instagram, here on TikTok, and looking really, really hard, finding people who are at the same part of the industry as me. So, trying to find people who aren't big names already, but are trying to break in. So we're at the same level, and we have the same ideas in mind and goals. And just cold calling them. Facebook groups are really good. I use a Facebook group called Connecting Comic Writers and Artists. Has thousands looking for work. There you go. Fake Comics does that. There's Reddit groups and Discord groups. But yeah, start looking there and start looking at places where people post their artwork and go from there. Also can't fall for marketers or crowdfund experts. Yeah, man, and the second you start a crowdfunder, you're going to get hit by a million different people going, hey, we see your Kickstarter isn't doing well. If you give us $100, we'll get $600 worth of backers for you. How does that work? There are people who have courses but never have been published. That's true, too. If it isn't someone who currently working at Kickstarter or other crowdfunding platforms, I'm not listening. Same. What about the price range for your first comic? I'd say about $3,000 minimum is what you're going to look to spend on a comic book if you're hiring a professional artist. If you have an artist who's going to do not only the inking but also the coloring, $100 to $120 per page is not a terrible place to start. Letterers go between $20 to $50 per page, depending on how high up they are in the industry and how long they've been doing it. I pay about $140 to $150 per page on some projects. It really depends on who you're working with. There are projects that I work with that nobody gets paid until we sell books, because we've all agreed to make this passion project that's for all of us. It's not just my idea and you're going to help me with my book. We've all agreed. But I'd say start at $3,000. That should be the amount of money that you have at least, and it goes up from there. I think for Hellion and Bash, each issue costs about $5,000, give or take, after being printed. Sometimes more, sometimes less. Especially like marketing. I think we spent like $2,000 on marketing, so maybe you're looking at closer to $7,000. But yeah, it's not cheap. It's not cheap to hire professionals to help you make your book. Depends on quality of art. 3,000 is average. Look at that. If that doesn't tell you, I don't know what will. And these are rough estimates, and the number will vary depending on who you hire. But start with having at least 3,000 if you want to hire a professional. And know that sometimes that number is going to go up or down, and it depends on how many people you bring onto your team. If you hire an artist, are they going to do the colors? Are they just doing pencils and inking? Then you got to think about hiring a colorist. If you're going to do a full color book, you have to think about a letterer, because is it a silent comic book? Are you going to letter it yourself? Bad letters will be a bad book. Good letters will fade into the background and people might not notice. And that's the best kind of lettering. And lettering is the backbone of every good comic book. So my submission comic is $7,000, and there you go. And Thomas has a full team, right? You have an artist, a colorist, an editor, and a letterer, right? And that doesn't even count, like, you didn't even get paid for writing. And that's, again, I talk about $3,000. I didn't get paid on that book. I didn't even break even, I think, on my first book. I think that was all out of pocket, down the drain. I don't get paid for most of my books, honestly. I started to break even on a lot of them, which is cool, and they just pay for the next book, but I've never broke even. So there you go. And he's one of the more successful indie dudes in my sphere, at least. And so, like, I will say you gotta really have a passion for it. You gotta really love it, and you gotta really want it. You gotta be doing it in a way where it's okay if you lose that money because of what you're working towards. And that's why, like, if you want to just do it as a hobby, just as fun, go for it. But be careful with how much you're gonna spend. If you're doing it to break into comics and to get work and stuff like that, have a plan going in. Don't quit your day job. Make sure you budget that money. Be prepared for there to be large gaps in between issues because of how much money it costs and all the delays that go into it. Something to keep in mind as tariffs come into play. Is AI art an option? To me, no. I think that if you're going to try to use AI art, things that you need to know is AI art steals from other artists. If you use AI art, you're going to find yourself in the ire of every other working comic book creator. There are people who use AI art to make their books, and they sell them and they make their money, and they will never be a part of the comic book community because, again, it not only steals the art to learn, so it's being trained by people's artwork and their images and their projects without their consent. So it's stealing that to learn. So an AI model has to learn from somewhere. So it's being taught how to do the art from other people's work without their consent. And then it steals people's jobs because they're not being hired because someone's going to use AI art. And also it's bad for the environment. Generative AI is bad. Hands down, I won't even remotely entertain that it's an option. And I will warn you against it 100% of the time. For all the reasons that I listed and a million other ones. But no, AI art isn't an option if you want to actually do this job. You're not going to learn from it. You might save a few bucks up front. The art is going to be bad. It's going to be stolen, and you're going to lose the respect of anybody that you might want to work with someday. So please don't do it. I would highly recommend against using generative AI art or generative AI writing or anything generative AI. Oh, excuse me. Sorry to get on my high horse there for a moment, but it is really serious and it affects all working artists, and it will affect the future. Let me rephrase. Could you use AI images to pitch your story? No. It's the same answer, DJ. I think you understand what I'm saying here. Not so. No. Just period. And definitely, like, if you're pitching AI artwork to, like, a publisher or something, like, they don't want that. They want to see what the book's going to be when it's done. So if you're saying, here's the AI artwork, but I'm going to hire a real artist when you give me the money to do... No. The reason why you put preview pages in a pitch packet is they want to see what the final book's going to look like. So not only should you not do that, because it's not going to get you the job, but it's just a bad idea all the way around. Like, all of the other negatives that come with AI art. Artists will not want to work with you future-wise, and cons will reject you. Exactly. People like us won't work with you, so it's like you won't even be able to work on the indie side, on the smaller part. I think of, like, that dude who sells his whist book, right? So much hate from all of the people that actually make comic books because he wanted to not hire an artist, even though he could afford one. He just wanted to make and do his AI art and then tweak it. It's not worth what you're going to lose doing it in the end. And the artwork isn't going to be that good. It's going to be stolen, and it's so much extra work even to just make it so it's readable. And it's never going to be consistent. You're not going to gain anything, really, from doing AI art other than saving a few bucks up front. And usually even that you won't, because you have to pay money to get involved with some of the generative AI, like, companies to even generate it. It's stealing an artist's 3-day piece of art and claiming it's new for free. Exactly. And it's not even good at it. That's why everyone can tell when it's AI generated. And the biggest thing when it comes to being an artist in comic books, it's not having the best pencils. It's not about having the most depth. It's not about having the most detail. It's about consistency. And you know what AI art is not? It's consistent. It is just not. It changes what it does willy-nilly from image to image. The amount of work that you'd have to do to make it even somewhat consistent is not worth it. Most publishers have a no AI policy at any step of the writing and art creation process. Exactly. Yep. And even if you're in it just to make money, right? Say like you're like, I don't care about the creative aspect. I hate artists. I just want to do it to make some money. You might make some money up front, and it's going to dwindle away very quickly because people aren't going to buy the next thing. And if they do, it's going to be few and far between. And the things that you see where people are making a lot of money off AI art comic books, those people usually have some level of notoriety already. Like, again, that dude who makes that Wisp book, it's like he was in an episode of that Dexter reboot, and like that's where partly some of his notoriety came from before he started making that book. And the book's not that good. It's not good, and the art's bad. And it's stolen. That's the thing. So ask yourself that. Do you want to steal that artwork? Are you ready to deal with the ramifications of, well, I saved some money and I got to make my comic book, but everyone hates me for doing it because I stole the artwork? That's what you'd have to do. Even when it comes to brainstorming, oh yeah. Because the thing is, like, generative AI is such like a misnomer too, because generative AI is not generating anything. It has to take it from somewhere else. Poorly. It doesn't come up with anything on its own. It doesn't create any of those ideas for you. It just takes somebody else's ideas and regurgitates them towards you. Your art, by the time you're doing all that, you could have made it so much further in creating your stuff. So no. Like, I don't know any other way to sell it. The answer is no. It's not worth it to do AI art in any capacity when it comes to generative stuff. Don't do it, man. Especially not if you want to have any longevity in comic books. Yeah, it's just better hiring an artist to do character design and pencil. Exactly. And you know, like, when it comes to all the artists I work with, like, you could hire a character designer and then work into hiring a different artist for your pages. Most of the interior art that I do, they also design the characters that they're drawing, but I've done some character design stuff. And it's worth saving it up. It's worth finding people that are at your same level. Because here's the thing that they don't tell you. Like, if you don't go in with your own idea, if you go, I'm going to create something whole cloth, you can find someone who's trying to break into the industry at the same level as you. And you can come up with an idea on your own. And you being the person who writes it, they being the person who draw it. And you find somebody else who wants to learn how to letter. If you're willing to start from the first level, you're going to find people who are willing to do it for the same price as you. Whether that's free or really cheap, cost less than $100 and you'll get real good quality. Exactly. Hey, what's going on, Mr. Midlife Crisis? What's new is Hellion and Bash Issue number 2 is live on Kickstarter right now for 16 more days, and people can go check it out. What's new with you, man? Fake comics. Or learn to draw yourself using YouTube. It's very true. And you can. If you're willing to put in the work, same way as you can learn how to write, you can learn how to draw. I learned how to draw. And like, I get way more money being paid to write comic books, but I get paid to do covers sometimes. I've done several indie covers, and now like the next project I'm working on, I did well enough, and I've been talking to a publisher. I'm probably going to do the interior pages for it, and it's from practice, man. The character design I showed you cost $75 for that one design. Yeah, I mean, and that's a lot, but that doesn't have to be where it starts. And you've worked up to a point where it's like, that's the seriousness that you have with it, and it's worth it to you to do that. And I know, like, let's see, so, Tokyo Fire, for example, this was like my first big hit when it came to indie stuff. Sky Hawkins had been doing stuff, you know, off and on for Marvel, for her indie webtoon, and she was doing a lot of character designs even just on the side. So when I reached out to her originally, it was like, hey, I'd love to do this book with you. Let's factor in how much it's going to cost to do character designs and interior art. And the number would have been way higher, but we came up with the idea together and we enjoyed working with each other. And we were both at the same point in our careers by the time it was getting ready to launch. So now where we work together, it's like, yeah, she does get paid. But a lot of it is a lot cheaper for me because I was willing to put in the work to build that relationship, and because we enjoy working together and we've created something together, and it's not just working on my idea, it's our idea. And you can do that if you're willing to not take the shortcut and do something with AI art. I don't have that time, sadly, but I got real good quality. I got what I paid for. It's true, dude. Those designs are sick. That book's going to be awesome. I don't technically either, but ADHD. Exactly. That's the thing, right? Like, hyper focus. When I don't sleep, I'll go learn a new skill, and one of those new skills was drawing. I started, like, I did a cover for Hellion and Bash. No, not Hellion and Bash. Tokyo Fire. I did a variant cover for, and that got me a lot of cover work, basically. And I learned how to draw to do that cover. I practice every day for a year. Learning from greats in comics, learning from my heroes in comics, art, and taking rudimentary classes starting from the very beginning, the same way I did with writing, was learning what I don't know and putting in the time and the effort. And now my stuff is way better than anything you're going to get out of an AI art machine, whether it's my writing or my drawing. I'm trying to find the cover that I can show off. I can draw, though. More realistic type of drawings. Lots of shading. Takes 5 to 6 hours. Exactly. I would love to see a Thomas Moran cover. I think, yeah, I would love to see some of your covers. I think you could really kill it. I have been thinking about learning. It's worth it. And especially, like, I recommend if you're going to do comic books, learn a little bit of all the different aspects of it. Because not only will it help you create a better final product, because you'll be able to convey different things of what you want to see. Me as the writer, a lot of times I'm also like the creative director on the project, right? So if I want to see something specific from the letterer, I could say, do it better. Or, having learned how to letter myself, I can ask for certain things and do something a little bit better. And get something specific out of a letterer. And also it helps you with the empathy of just knowing what you're asking other people to do. Whether you're paying them or not, you should at least understand. You ever had one of those crappy bosses who couldn't do your job if they tried, and they're trying to tell you how to do it better? You never want to be one of those creative partners. And learning what goes into doing their job stops you from having to deal with that. And it makes me a lot easier to work with, and a lot of people enjoy working with me, and I credit, in no small part, me getting gigs from being cool to work with. Like, I might be an okay writer, but I'm I'm okay to hang out with, and that goes a long way. I love that parallel. Thank you so much, Mr. Midlife Crisis. This is another dude who I've never heard a single bad word about. Although, I've never seen you on a construction site talking to other people. So, maybe you suck to work with there. But I know people love working with you online. Also, make sure you get an editor who has real experience. That's true. I haven't had the chance to work with many editors. It's something that I'm working towards with my next project. Because I would love to see not just the editorial process, but the amount of times an editor brings to the table is so much more than, hey, cut this, or hey, fix this grammar. It's the knowledge of the industry that they have, and it makes your book 10 times better. And that's so cool. But it is expensive. Once you start building out a team, all the stuff we talked about, it's like, oh, hire an artist, hire a writer, hire a colorist, hire a letterer, hire an editor, hire a designer. All these things start to add up, and you're like, oh, wow, this is now a $12,000 book. And no one will read it. Like, it gets rough, man. And that's why you gotta have that passion for it. You gotta really, really want it. My editor costs $700. There you go, man. Let's see if I can switch this over real quick. There we go. This is the cover I did. And this got me several cover jobs, basically. How often do you have to talk to yourself off a ledge? Taking the big stuff, dude. It's hard, man. I asked my wife. I try to give up creating comic books probably about once a week, easily, because it's so expensive, and nobody wants you to do it. You know, in fact, most people want you to stop. And the business is saturated. There's so many pros who are already doing it better than you, who, if there is a job available, they're gonna get that job. You know, like it's so hard to approach it in a way where like I have to break out. But the thing is you gotta want it, and if you actually want it, if you want it as bad as I want it, you can't give up. You have to do it. Most family and friends don't care you're doing it. Bingo. Most family and friends are annoyed that you're doing it. They don't know comic books. They don't care. Get a real job. You know, even if you have a day job, like they're mad that you're doing another thing. You gotta have the passion. My passion, yeah, heck yeah, man. Your passion is real, dude. I appreciate that. I'm glad you can tell, because it is. Because who would do this if they weren't passionate? There's no money in it. There's only heartache. There's only rejection for the vast majority of people who do comic books, right? Why would I ever do it if I wasn't passionate about it? And I think that was the scariest thing when I made my first comic book. Yeah, obviously nobody read it. But the scary part was when I did it, I was like, I don't care. I don't care if nobody reads it. I gotta convince them to read it. I love this. I never knew what I wanted to do as my job. As a kid, I'm like, maybe I wanted to be a writer. Maybe something with the arts. Was never an option where I came from. Everyone worked at Walmart or like was a logger, you know? Like there was no jobs. You could be a mechanic. That was like the dream big job. And so like I worked at a crappy office. I wrote about car parts day in and day out for like a decade. And when I finally took the plunge into making comic books and figuring out what I was supposed to be doing is how I feel about it, it unlocked something in me. And now it sucks because everything is a big deal because I need it. It's not that I just want it. I want it real bad, but I need it. I need to be successful. I need to make the next comic book. But now I got kids. Now I have, you know, bills to pay. I got a wife who you know, depends on me. And that drives a fire under you, man. That's why most quit about 3 to 4 years in. Exactly. Because it's all rejection. Nobody cares for the vast majority of you starting out. Same here, man. I still don't know what I want to do. Yeah, but you do so many things so well, man. I feel like the options are endless. When are you putting out your EP? When is your next stand-up night? When's your next fight? I've never seen you do something poorly, man. It's so crazy. Everyone works in fast food in my town. Exactly, man. Like, I worked in fast food. I did pizza, specifically. I worked at several pizzerias, delivery, cook. You know, I'm a mean pizza chef. I was a sandwich artist. I did all that stuff before I went to get an office job. And I didn't like it. They'll make excuses not to publish, which really means they are done. Right, exactly. And one of the reasons why I named my company CBK is like, you can't make excuses. You fail, you just got to do it again and again. Because if you really want it, you'll do that. And the only time you really fail is when you give up, is when you're done. And I feel like if you look at it like competition, the reason why I've done better about my stuff, like the reason why I've gotten yeses from publishers, is because other people gave up first. So when I look at my competition, I won because they were done. I love fast food, exactly. I come back on and things seem somber. Somber is the wrong word, Martin. But I've had a couple of people in here talking about breaking in and like what it takes and how expensive it is. And just like how much it really does cost going in. Hey TS, could you make a comic with Phineas Ferb and Dr. Doofenshmirtz? God, I would love to, Cooper. Sadly, I don't own any of those characters, and therefore I can't just do that. There is a mad scientist in issue 1 of Hellion and Bash, and they make a giant pterodactyl that terrorizes the city. So if that interests you, I can do that. But no, I couldn't make a comic book for Phineas and Ferb. I don't know where the rights shake out on that one. I believe it's Marvel. Because Disney owned Phineas and Ferb, at least at some point, and they own Marvel. So if there's a Phineas Ferb comic, it probably comes out under the Marvel label. Disney owns Phineas Ferb and Doof. Well, there you go. Only Marvel's gonna do it then. And Marvel isn't hiring me to write anything, let alone one of the biggest cartoons they've ever created. So probably not. I would love to, though. I love Phineas and Ferb, and I love cartoons. I have a children's graphic novel that's in the works right now, and I'm pitching that to like Scholastic and things like that. That I would love. It's closer to Craig of the Creek than it is Phineas and Ferb. I've seen about 10 people stop in the last 3 years at cons. Exactly, man. And I hate to see it because I bet you some of those books were really good. And I bet you they had what it took. Not to sound like a jerk, but successes in this business is not for everyone. That's fair, and it really isn't. And I think so much of what I bring to the table is that I don't give up. Right? It's that I'm going to keep working at it, and I'm going to take every opportunity I can that I'm given, and I'm going to use it to its full extent. And if I don't get that opportunity, I'm going to try again the next time. The ones who have it will make it, and I hope that's the case, and I hope I have it. And I don't see many people who make it who don't have it, right? So I still think that success rides at the top. But I think so much of surviving, at least the indie comic space and breaking into comic books, is about, you also have to have it, but you also have to just be willing to do it anyways. You got to break through. Oh man, that means a ton coming from you, Martin. I'm not, I can't look at it because I'm going to cry again, but that means a ton, man. Thank you. But it's not enough to just be good at it. You have to also be lucky. You have to also be willing to put yourself out there and network and schmooze and influence and do all the stuff that you're probably not good at when you start, right? Like, you might be an amazing writer, and it sucks when I tell people, when they're like, I have this awesome comic book. I'm like, I bet you do, and it doesn't matter. And maybe they were blowing smoke, but I've pitched a lot of really good comic books back in the day, and it didn't matter because I had never self-published, so I didn't know what it took to go into it. No, I didn't have any fans or followers, and the best advice I got, like, when I started to get no buts, so like when you get rejections, first nobody says anything, then you'll get no's, and then you'll get no buts. And when I got the no buts, they were like, listen, this is good. You know what you're doing. And you've clearly put the work in to learn it. But no one's going to buy this. Like, we're not going to give you money to do it. You've never self-published anything. So I said, okay. And I started self-publishing books. And after doing that, coming back with an audience, coming back to show that I was willing to put my money on the line, publishers started to take note. They started saying yes. They started at least opening up my emails. And so, it's about timing, you know? And also being really good. You also have to be good at it. It's always about getting better. Totally is. I call Wardens my best series, but I can see my own mistakes in it. Totally. And there's always room to grow, and you can never rest on your laurels. And I think that often separates people who are willing to get better from people who were fine before. My favorite thing is when you see professional musicians and you hear about them taking lessons still. Because if you're really good, you know that you're not the best. You know that there's something to be learned from. There's something to be gained. That's why smart people will admit when they're wrong and learn from it, whereas in dumb people will be offended that you think that they're not right and double down on it. And when it comes to the arts, it's all a skill. You can learn these things as long as you're willing to grow from it. And I think Wardens is awesome. And knowing that you are going, it's awesome, but it could be better, is why I will buy your next comic book, right? Like, I love Hellion and Bash issue number 1. It was one of my favorite things I ever wrote. Issue number 2 is better. It just is. I learned a lot more from the first issue, and I continued to get better, in my opinion, at least. Fantagraphics is a partnership for comics for Disney IP and Disney Publishing worldwide. Well, there you go. Maybe I'll pitch to Fantagraphics. That's another one that I probably won't have the chance to. And also, like, when people pop in and ask those questions, I never want to sound like a jerk. It's like, to me, anybody who would hire me to write something, I would probably give it a chance. As long as they're not bigots, as long as it's not like an awful IP, I'd give it a chance. I would love to write anything. One of my superpowers is that I can be passionate about anything that I get the chance to write about. I used to host a podcast called Pitch for Pitch, and the whole idea is that people would call in and say a random IP with a random genre, and I would pitch a story with it. And that's a lot of writers have that as like a little parlor trick or party trick that they have in their back pocket. It's not uncommon. And so if I got the chance to write anything, you know, I would take it, you know? I noticed you because when you talk about comics, you talk about the craft and personally getting better. Dude, thank you so much. And it's because that's, to be honest, that's the only thing I know about. I only know about writing comic books when it comes to talking about it on a level that I think that I'm qualified to talk on, right? I've done the work, I learn, I practice every day, and I read everything I can get my hands on. Not just comic books. Books too. I don't talk about books a lot in here, but I'm an avid reader. I love to soak in stories any way I can. And I learn from it, and I try to carry that onto my craft. I don't talk about breaking in often because I haven't done it. And I'm not going to blow smoke and go, this is how you work for Marvel Comics. Because what the heck do I know? you know? When you can go and follow someone like Stephanie Phillips or Michael Avon Oming or any of the other awesome people who are working professionals for those large publishers on a platform like TikTok, go get their advice on that stuff. They know what the heck they're talking about. I don't know what I'm talking about other than I can give you some tips on what I've found has made my writing better. Little techniques that I've found that I utilize. Things that I've learned about getting published. That's the stuff that I can speak on. I can't tell people how to break in or what they should be doing, you know. I can give you some tax advice, but not even like good stuff. But like I studied, I was to be an accountant before I started doing comic books. I know some things about the American tax system. I can talk about that, but I can't tell people how to break in. I'd love to write Spider-Man. Marvel would hate me. Stephanie is wonderful with her comics and TikTok. She really is. And also, I always credit Stephanie. I reach out to a lot of professionals going, hey, can I give you my book? Partly just to get my name into people's heads, right? And partly because I want to share my book with anybody I can. And if you write comics, you probably like comic books. So it's not me cold calling somebody going, hey, do you want my comic book? It's, hey, you like comics. Do you want to read this? And most pros say no, whatever, or they'll blow smoke and go, yeah, no, definitely, I'll definitely check it out. I've heard of you, even though they never have. Stephanie was the only person who was super honest, was like, I appreciate that. I will not read this. It's like, no, thank you. And I love that. And like, really awesome person. I've learned a lot from her, on not just on TikTok, but her writing and just being in comic books in general. But like, but I always loved that. She was like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to read your book. I've had a few other people do that too, but that was one I could actually name drop. But I try not to be somber and tell people that's possible. I just want to be honest about it. Like, it costs a lot of money and time, and I was in my 30s before I even thought I'd have a chance at doing this. And you see people break in, Scotty Young, Kyle Stark, someone like that. It's like, they didn't even have a chance until they were, you know, midway through their 30s. So it's never too late. But you do have to be honest with yourself about what it's going to take to do it. The odds of you just getting discovered off your first thing are slim to none. One of the first people I followed. Heck yeah. She showed how much she writes. It's amazing. She has any time at all. Exactly. And like, that's a big reason why I take so many jobs, even if it's like indie stuff that no one's going to read or no one cares about or pays me so little or whatever. It's like, it's practice. It's me building my resume. I know sometimes you see people jump in and you're like, oh, I love it. And like, they don't actually. I do love writing and I love practicing and I want to get better and I want it to do better and I want to break in. I want to work in comics and I don't just want to sell a bunch of Hellion and Bash #2, which is totally awesome. I'd love if you go buy it. My goal isn't to sell 1 million Hellion and Bash #2. My goal is to work in comics forever, for as long as I can. And that means getting better each time. That means working with as many people and taking any opportunity to learn. I begged Lucky 33 Comics to let me write a comic book for them, not just because I wanted to write with them, which I did, and I love those dudes over there, but also because I knew that their process was vastly different than mine, that they had creative control, that they had editors over there, and I wanted to just put on my resume that I know how to work with a team like that, that I could be hired for a character that I did not create, that I did not own, and that I was willing to play ball and listen to suggestions and to work with an editor and with the people who did own that character. It's about figuring out what your goal is and working towards that any way that you can. Rar, what's going on, Vargas? First thing I'd do if I wrote Spider-Man, Peter and MJ back together for good with a kid. Yeah, I love Peter and MJ with a kid. I love that. I always tell people, or like they'll ask, like, "Oh, would you write Spider-Man?" Like, of course I would, and I have ideas for that, sure. But that's not really what's going to happen. If I ever got a chance to write for Marvel, you know what it would be? It would be like a one-page Stiltman backup. So like when it comes to like my pitches out of pocket, ready to go, if they said, "Hey, T.S, we're willing to give you a one-page story," what would you do? It's like Gold Balls. Give me a Gold Balls story. Let me write Gold Balls. Stiltman. DC. Give me Dog Welder. I'll give you a 4-issue Dog Welder series that'll make you cry. Like, because you're not going to give me Batman. No way. Hank, Agent of Hydra. I got this. Like, these are characters that they would maybe take a chance on. They're not going to give me Robin, you know? I decided long ago to work towards having more people reading my books over the money. And that's honestly, that's probably the best decision you could have made, because You could squeeze your audience dry. I could charge $25 an issue of Hellion and Bash, and maybe I would have reached my goal already with my 48 backers. But there's a good chance 48 people wouldn't buy my book for $25. It's not worth $25, if I'm going to be honest with you. It's worth $5. That's why I sell them for $5. And I know that they have more money left over to buy the next issue. Because I don't want to just sell them one book and be done and I made my money on it. It's like I want to sell them as many of these as possible. And it's about treating your audience respectfully and their wallet respectfully. They are way better with a kid. Renew your vows and Ultimate Spider-Man proved that. Totally true. Loved it. I grew up on Spider-Girl. It's like Pete wasn't even the main Spider character. I love that for him. If enough people discover what I do, the money will come. Exactly. And it's about breaking even if you can. It's about making enough money to not break the bank at home so you can do the next issue. A lot of what I tell people in indie comics when people drop by, like asking for tips, it's like, hey, like, know how much this is going to cost and budget for it. Start working towards that number. Because if you're doing it on a hope and a prayer that issue 1 is going to sell 10 million copies and you're going to make all this money that'll fund the rest of the series, you're dreaming. You're delusional. It just is not the reality. Maybe I'm wrong. Prove me wrong. I'd love to see it for you. But it's not going to happen. I would rather see 48 people want to come back and buy the next issue than 10 people gave me $25. You know? Like, it's just, it's simple money, but Jesus loves you and he's coming back soon to repent before it's too late. Thanks, Bennett. If you say so. Taylor Comics. I saw a video where she writes one issue in like a week to a week and a half. Exactly. And I don't know if that's where you have to be when it comes to working in comics. I know it helps. I try to do each issue in a week. That's my goal always. Sometimes it goes over to 2 weeks. Luckily, I don't have to always do it. But take care of your fans and they will take care of you. Yes, exactly, man. Build them as much as you can. Be respectful. Be thankful for everybody that comes in. I get trolls every once in a while. They're like, oh, this dude thinks he's big time because he sold 50 copies. It's like, no, I don't think I'm big time, but I am always thankful for the 50 copies I sold. I think altogether with Tokyo Fire, that's like the largest selling series I have so far. We sold about 300 issues. And I can't believe that. And right now I have 48 backers on Hellion and Bash issue number 2. And I am thankful for every single one of them. They make all of this possible. That's 48 people more than I ever thought would give a crap that I wrote a thing. And I will try to give them every bit of value that I can. I wish I could just give it away for free. Sadly, that's an impossibility. But I would if I could. Because they make all this possible. They make, you know, the deal that I have with Professional Entropy right now to make issue number 2 was only because enough people cared in issue 1 to let me get funded in under an hour. We didn't raise nearly as much money as this in an hour, but still, like, that was like notoriety enough that people cared to go and click on the button right away, that I was able to say that in a little business meeting, that they wanted to go, okay, sounds like you know what you're doing. Let's give you money for issue 2. Never give things away for free. It devalues them in the customer's mind. That's fair. You're not wrong. Your customers need to know that you value what you do. It's true. You're not wrong there. And a big part of me getting down to $5 was because of like having the publisher involved. I was able to get it down, and we couldn't get it down any further than that. But I wanted it to at least be competitive with other stuff that they see at stores. Now that we're in more stores, I wanted it to not cross their mind that this was an indie book. I wanted them to go, okay, because you see an indie book, it costs $10, and you have to explain why it costs $10. Either it's giving you more value, or it's because concessions had to be made. I'm not Marvel, so I have to charge this. I like the idea of just being able to go, it's a comic book, it costs $5. And they're willing to look at it in no other way other than it's a comic book. But you're not wrong. I would give it away if I could, but you're not wrong. People would definitely think it's, oh, okay, it's a free comic, so it's worthless. Backers never realize how huge it is to share a project everywhere. It's massive. That's exactly it. Every time I tell people, like, they're like, oh, I just don't have the money to back right now. I'm like, that's totally awesome, and I understand. Will you tell a friend? even a friend that doesn't like comic books, just share it with somebody. That goes just as far, if not further, than giving me $2, $3, $5, whatever. It's so helpful. And it's the only reason why like we're halfway right now. Which obviously that's not enough. Like I need to get to that $3,000 goal, sure, but like we're only almost halfway because people were willing to share it. I've looked at the numbers. More people came to it from shared links than from any of the ads we ran. Almost nobody clicked on the ad and then went and backed the book. But at least 30 people for these came from shared links of people going, yeah, no, I'm going to share it with a friend. I'm going to share it with my followers. 30. We had 52 pre-saves. And 30 people came from word of mouth of other people that backed it. Or were interested. I didn't even see the ad ever. Exactly. Because I don't have the money, and neither did Professional Entropy, to put it up everywhere. It's not like, we're going to be on the radio and McDonald's-sized ads. That's just not how it goes. We did a short stint on YouTube. We did a short run on TikTok. And also, Taylor, you probably didn't see it because you already knew about it. And the good thing about internet cookies is it knows who's already seen a thing. So it wasn't going to show it to you again. But, again, I could wax philosophical on why people do it or whatever, but I don't know. If I knew how to do it right, I'd probably have more than what I have right now. I'd probably have more than $1,381 out of a $3,000 goal. I'd probably have more than 48 backers. This is the part that I'm not good at. I won't even pretend and be like, I'm an expert, it's awesome, I've done this 2 times already, I know how to do it. I don't know how to do it. It's a struggle every single time I hit that Kickstarter button or Zoop button or crowdfunding in general. It's a struggle. What I do is I write comics. That's why it says, hi, I'm T.S. and I write comics. Ezra System in the chat. Oh, hey, it's T.S. Luther. He writes comics. Exactly. That's what I do. I can put a team together. I can write a comic book. I can't tell you how to make money off of them. If I knew how to do it, I would be making more money. Like, I'm scared that I'm not going to get to that goal. But I'm going to try tooth and nail. I'm going to fight for it and try to get there. So Professional Entropy gives me the money to make the next issue. Comic marketing is a struggle unless you cause conflict. Sure, I guess I could do that. I could say some more controversial things. That's just not me. I write comics. Nobody said I sold them. That's exactly it, dude. I've tried to start beef before. I tried to start beef with Alex from Lucky 33 Comics. That dude, his hair, it's ridiculous. It's like, yes, we get it. You like Weird Al or whatever. And it's just, I'm not good at the beef thing. Mostly because no one cares who I am. I'm beefless. I love everyone. That's part of the issue. If you got beef with me, I'm sorry. I don't care. I have friends. I have all these awesome people that came by and chatted with me for 2.5 hours. What do I need beef for? The only thing I do is write comics, man. I'm so sorry. It's your fault. You didn't fight back. That was part of it. I made a whole smear campaign about Lucky 33 Comics not publishing The Face, which I'm still mad about, and there's probably going to be litigation about it if I'm going to be completely honest. They're just sitting on it for some reason, publishing other stuff. I think it's personal reasons. I think that they don't like my politics, which it's fine. It's okay. It is what it is. For some reason. Speaking of Lucky 33 Comics, where is Reanimania and where is Bubble Pop and the Wonder Witches? I need to know. The people gotta know. Why isn't it out yet? People don't know my politics. Right, exactly. People don't know my politics. I don't like bigots. How about that? Bigots and fascists I'm not a fan of. So, that's my politics. I need to know. Reanimania is penciling. Oh, heck yeah. Love to hear that. So, you got Reanimania on its way. Looms 4. Possibly Bubble Pop in there somewhere. I would love... There's a little girl at my house who loves Bubble Pop very, very much. Bubble Pop 5 is writing and Looms 4 is penciling. Alright, thank you. That's what I need to know. And The Face, written by T.S. Luther, drawn by Artie Murphy, is where, along with my giant check. See, they gave me a giant check, and I took it to the bank, and they said, no, you need a regular size check. And I went back to Ezra, and I was like, hey, bank said I need a normal check. And he said, I don't know what to tell you. I gave you the giant check. Like, I did my part. And the face is supposed to be on it. We'll see. Listen, I'm going to go, and I'm going to bug Turtle Boy about it. I'm going to make this happen. But he's busy making giant Marvel posters because they are cool. It is true. Please go and I need the giant one. I messaged him about it, but please go and purchase one of these from R.D. Murphy Art. This thing is awesome. 184 days of doing a single Marvel character from the comment section. I got one in there. I think so did Ezra. Go check that out. Breaking news, Ezra from Lucky 33 gave big reasons for not publishing a writer's comic done for them. Please go and write this up. I'm going to send this to Bleeding Cool News right now. I got Slapstick on there. Oh, nice! I had bothered them about getting Ben Reilly, the Scarlet Spider, on there for almost 180 days straight. I actually don't know if he went off my comment. He might have gone off somebody else's. But I don't care because he got him on there. But yeah, I'm going to send this article to Bleeding Cool and force their hand. And also to my lawyers because, you know, this needs to be litigated. It's, you know, their contracts were signed. A lot of money had changed hands. You know, promissory notes. If Bleeding Cool wrote about me, I'd cry. They scare you. I sent the press release for Hellion and Bash #1 to so many different outlets, and Bleeding Cool was the only one that was like, we're not gonna do that. like so many just didn't make it. Bleeding Cool was really honest. They're like, that's not gonna happen. But I appreciated the honesty. I'm sending out another press release for issue #2 on Monday, and I don't have a contact over there, but I'm gonna send it over there just in case. You never know. It might be a slow news day. They might need something to write. We need a Substack where it's just us making up beef with each other. The problem is the people that I would have fake beef with are they're working. There's no time to do it. Your publisher should handle your press. They do some. They do some of my press. Also, full disclosure, I also have done work for Professional Entropy on that side, which is partly where the relationship came from. So I do some of that stuff. I own a piece of Professional Entropy, so some of it is well, somebody's got to do it, and it's going to be me. They handled a lot of the ad work. They actually paid me to make the ad, but they did all the placement for it. The press release I had asked to write, basically, because they don't have a gigantic news team. So it was, partly because I wanted to put my words on there. We'll see. Usually what happens is they'll go, hey, we want to do this thing. And I go, I like it. Can I write it? And that's usually how it goes for that. But when you work with small publishers, you take what you can get. And a lot of the smaller publishers don't have news teams. They don't have it. What you get out of some of those deals is distribution. In my case, Professional Entropy is a really, really small company, and what they did was front me the money to pay Marcus to draw issue 2. That was basically the relationship. And that's the problem with fake beef is people don't get it, and then it becomes real beef. And I'm a vegetarian, so exactly. The Lucky 33 fans would eat me alive if I started actually beefing with Alex. Very, very, very cool people who would defend all of those comics with their life. So, I'm not really, that was a joke. I love cheeseburgers. My beef is Ezra has taken over all 3 of my feeds on here. It's very, very true and very easily done. I didn't do nothing. My beef is that he makes cooler comics than I do, and my daughter likes them more than mine. And I got a problem with that. We would label it as satire. And also, too, a big part of it is, time-wise. We don't have time to do more of that. It takes a lot for a lot of us to get on to do our marketing for our comic books like this. Ezra, trying to get on to plug the Kickstarter in a place where, like, if you say Kickstarter, no one's gonna be able to see it. Guilty as. Like, you gotta, like, plug the Kickstarter over and over again. You gotta market it. You gotta put out the press releases and do all that stuff. I'm so bad at advertising. Exactly. And we just want to make the comic books. Sadly, you just don't get to. You don't get to just make the comic books. You gotta do all the other stuff. And that's again, when you go click on that Kickstarter, I think I did a really good job with Hellion and Bash 2. I know Marcus did a really good job with the art. I know Mike Stock killed it on the letters. That's not enough. You gotta sell it to people. And again, thankfully, like, Professional Entropy took time and money and made ads for us. And I'm gonna do some press release stuff. But that so far it hasn't been enough to get that on there. So I gotta go to my fans and my friends and my followers and go, hey, even if you already backed it, even if you don't have the money to back it, tell a friend. Like, I joke, but, like, tell a friend, send it to people. Like, tell people about it, even if it's just out of the kindness of your heart. I don't mind. Like, it goes a long way. The Kickstarter's fire. Thank you so much, dude. And, like, listen, I'm gonna be completely honest. I learned a lot of what's on this Kickstarter from looking at Looms. I wish I could have done a full comic strip like you guys do. Sadly, it wasn't in the budget or in the time, but I would have loved to have done that. And I'm glad that you dig it. But, again, like, the only reason why I'm even halfway funded is because people were willing to share it with people. I have the analytics for who comes there from what place. And when you look at it, it's like we ran an ad on Facebook, on YouTube, on TikTok, and maybe 1 or 2 people came from that. 30 people came from shares from other people who had already seen it. Like, we had 52 pre-saves, and most of those people didn't even back the project. It came from people who saw it and shared it with other people. I will say I love Sky's drawing she did and posted for Hellion and Bash on her socials. Was that not the coolest thing? I gotta bring that up. Sky Hawkins is my co-creator from my other book, Tokyo Fire. And she did an amazing piece of fan art for it that I'm talking to her about paying her so we can do it as an art print to go with the Kickstarter, full disclosure. But Sky is the best. I love working with her. We're doing issue 2 of Tokyo Fire next, and her stuff is amazing. So when she hit me up and she was like, "Hey, I drew this thing," I'm like, "This is the coolest thing ever." It's so awesome having such talented friends like that. You know what I mean? Who can make stuff and draw stuff and write stuff. A lot of those people will pledge right at the end too. I don't know why they do it, but they do. That's true. And I gotta hope that people will come through at the end because it's a marathon. It's not a race, right? More people will back before the end of it. I haven't lost hope that it's not gonna get funded. But as the guy who's now making this book and other people's paycheck depend on me doing it, not just my own household, right? Like, I gotta feed my kids. I gotta, support my wife. I have to help Marcus get paid. Marcus isn't, if issue number 2 doesn't sell, I can't pay him for issue number 3, right? Professional Entropy's not gonna pay us for more. Mike Stock, who's our amazing letterer on this, like, I employ him, and if people don't back it, we don't get to make more. And so, like, it's not just on me trying to show people my project, it's about selling enough to support the team, and that's important to me. All right, there we go. This is the artwork by Sky Hawkins, my amazing co-creator on Tokyo Fire and the interior artist for that book. She did this awesome Hellion and Bash fan art, and it is one of the coolest things I've ever seen. It looks so cool. I'm going to need that art as a metal or acrylic print. I will definitely add it. This will be the first stretch goal. If we can get there, I will make sure people get this in their hands. Partly because people need more art from Sky Hawkins. She's the best. She's got an amazing webtoon called Exhaust. You need to go and read it. It is awesome. And like I said, she also does the interior artwork and is the co-creator of Tokyo Fire. So go and check that out. And I hope I never seem like somber. Like, I'm not sad. It's okay. Like, we're halfway. I'm still full of hope. But I take it seriously in a way sometimes that I know comes off as, like, too serious. But it's a job for me, but it's other people's paychecks on the line. Those people need to eat. They have kids they need to feed. They did amazing work and they deserve to get paid for it. Full disclosure, I don't really get paid for my comic books. They don't make enough money for me to get paid. They usually make enough money for me to make the next one. And, if you ever talk to any of the artists that I work with, I try to get them paid first if I can, if any money is made on it at all. So, like, Hellion and Bash, #2, which is live on Kickstarter right now. Follow the link in the bio. What Professional Entropy did, like, when I signed with that publisher, is they fronted me the money to help get issue 1 printed, to pay Marcus Pedro and Mike Stock, the artist and the letterer, so they can start working on the book right now. And then, if the book sells enough to recoup that money, then I get some of the proceeds, basically. I made $0 off of the book, and I probably will make $0 off the book. That's how it goes. Thanks, Bennett. I follow Sky on Instagram, and her webtoon is on my list. Heck yeah, please check it out. She's got another one in the works, too, that she's pitching around. Not webtoon, but like another comic book, and I cannot wait for people to read it. I don't want to spoil it here, but all I can say is mechs and drama, and it's going to be so good. Oh, dude, Kickstarters are the single most stressful thing I do, period, by a lot. Dude, it's so true. The ulcers that I have are so real, and but you have to. You have to do it. Like, you see us do it, and you're like, why would you do that to yourself? And it's like, I do it because I've never been told I'm good at anything else. Making comic books is the only thing that anyone's ever been like, that was pretty good, And like, there's just a part of me like, I have to make comic books. I'm nervous to even do another Kickstarter. Bug Boy, I get that. And I've read Chimera. And if you put the work in and you keep practicing and you get it made and you're reasonable about what you ask for and you build up that audience, from here on TikTok, from Instagram, if you start getting on and talking more, you can build an audience to get it funded. You can do it. Tying your self-worth to a number like that is miserable. It really is, and I don't do that. I try not to tie my self-worth to how much the money is raised, because here's the thing: how much it raises is not indicative of how good of a book it is, of how good of a book that I made, got made, worked on. They're not the same. They are not one-to-one. It is, I made a good book, in my opinion. I think it's a good book. I think Marcus Pedro's art is amazing, and I can say that not just because I wrote the story. I think it's good, but I understand that other people might not like it. I think Marcus Pedro's art is amazing. I think Mike Stock is an amazing letterer. I think that we have created something really, really cool, good enough that a publisher gave us money to make it. That doesn't always mean that it's going to make that money, right? People have to be interested in it. So I try not to tie my self-worth to how much money it raises. It's hard not to ask that question, though, sometimes. Chimera is a story I feel that people will like. That's totally true. But Bug Boy, what's more important is that you like it. You're the first audience. You gotta like it. And you gotta be okay. Like, that's the sad part. You gotta be okay if other people don't. Especially when you haven't put out other stuff before. Because even if people love it, even if it's their favorite thing they've ever read, it might only sell a few copies because they're not one-to-one. That's where the marketing thing comes into play. Hellion and Bash could be the best comic book ever, and I think that, I think it's good. I don't think it's the best comic book ever. I think it's good, but that doesn't matter. It's about how many eyes can I get on it. When the eyes do land on it, are they interested enough to go and buy it? Those are all different things. And sadly, sometimes it's just timing. I had many sleepless nights just writing and rewriting the first issue. That's good. That's a good sign. That means that you're putting in the work. And I'll tell you, I enjoyed the read. Now you gotta get it made. Now you gotta do the rest of it. But when I make a video about my comics, it's like, dude, it's so true. Like, I can make a tip video and be like, listen, if you want to write comic books, do this. If you want to publish your comic books, do that. And those do great. The second I start going, okay, I have this book called Hellion and Bash, #2. It's live on Kickstarter right now. Even if I don't say all that stuff, I have a book called Hellion and Bash. And I start telling you about Hellion, this sidekick who was adopted from the streets thinking he had finally made it in life. Not only did he get adopted by this rich billionaire He was also trained to become a superhero, which is like every little kid's dream, right? And then you find out that this adopted dad is a bad guy, right? And it's not all it's cracked up to be. And he's put in harm's way, and he's treated poorly. And it's not until the supervillain comes and saves him that he's finally felt cared about. And it's from the exact wrong community from what he's been taught. When I start talking about that stuff, even if people jive with that, even if they're into Batman and Robin and Invincible and the Boys and the Victories and all these other things that would make you like a comic book like this, that's not what they're there for. They've never heard of that. And people will go to a place like TikTok, not always to find something new, but to be reminded of the things that they already like. They don't want to hear this nobody guy talk about a nobody book. They want tips on how to write comic books. They want tips on how you do your cool hair. They want to hear you talk about Weird Al. They want to hear you talk about your amazing love story with your wife that makes me cry every time I hear it. They don't always want to hear about New Luminaries, which sucks because New Luminaries is amazing. And I love that book. And I love the world that you guys have created. And I love the lore and how deep it goes. And I loved, like, being able to be a small part of that when I worked on the face with you. Like, being able to, like, just for a second touch that magic has been so cool. And we cover a lot of similar topics from different angles, but being able to do that, and, like, I know that you know that I love creating worlds. And if you get bigger, that passion can carry you a long way if you can find that audience. But that's just not always why people tune in. And so you can't always sell your comic books on that way. And I feel bad because people will ask me, like, oh, how do you sell a comic? How do you do that? And I have to tell them that it's more than just making a cool comic book. That doesn't matter a large part of the time when it comes to surviving and making comic books. Like, I think about how many indie comic books on here that sell thousands of copies. Thousands. I'm like, that's crazy. I can barely get 50 people to buy my book, and they sell thousands. And yet, I have 2 publishing deals, right? Like, I have stuff, and like, I've gone further in my career than they have, that they even want to. Most of those people don't even want to write for publishers. And it's like, it doesn't matter. It's different for everybody. And you can't compare the two. And they also, by the way, no shade at all, they deserve every copy sold. That's awesome for them. We got to get together on live or something to talk about Chimera. Definitely. I don't know if we can do it live. I don't want to, like, you know, talk about your story. I don't know how much I can do that. Unless that's what you want to do, Bug Boy. If you want to do that on a live, we can do that. That might be easier. I know, like, I've tried to get online to talk to you about stuff before, and our timing never works out. But if you'd want to do it live, that might be easier, because I got to go live. I got to shill. I got to sell Hellion and Bash #2, which is live on Kickstarter right now. But DM me about that. If you're interested, we can definitely do that. I gotta go. I gotta go make dinner and do all the other stuff, and I gotta write more comic books. Because even if this one doesn't sell, I gotta, you know, keep making the donuts. That's the thing. You just can't give up. Last update, we're at $1,381 out of a $3,000 goal, 48 backers, and 16 days to go. Gotta write issue 4. There you go. It's a great mentality. Thank you, everybody, for stopping by, listening to me yap. I really appreciate you, and I appreciate you making sure I'm not just talking to myself, which I would have been for all this time. You're the best. I have only talked to Ezra twice, but on one of both of your lives. Why do I know so much about him? We love you. I love you. You're awesome. Thank you so much, dude. And you know so much about him because the dude is fascinating, and he tells amazing stories on his TikTok. That's why. He's also because he's worth knowing. Because he took over my feed. Exactly.